Hello there, and this is a bit of a disagreement. So yesterday, Gary Hall, aka Phoneybeetlemaniacs, made a post on G Plus, and I was quite angry with it because he left a comment in one of Dragnaught's in the live chat of Dragnaught's video, in which he said that there's going to be there's going to be this fundraiser for G-Man because he's lost his job, and he said that I'll donate, but if you don't, shame on you. And I thought that was outrageous. I really did. And so we're going to have a discussion on that. So I've got Gary here, and I've got D as well. Fiona may be joining us later, possibly even Holly Spackle, but I'm not sure. The thread was quite active. There's a link underneath to the thread, so people can see. Now, Gary has pointed out to me that since he made the original post, that he's had a slight change on his position, and I don't think it's fair to effectively strawman someone with their original position. Let's go with what his position is now. So I think it's only fair to let Gary, I've got the original post here. So I think it's important for Gary to explain. Do you think? Well, let me ask you, Gary. Do you think you should read your original post and then say, okay, here's the bit that I've changed my position on, and then we can go at that?
Okay, I think it's best if I read it, and then if I get to a point where maybe I want to alter what I originally thought, then we can take that into account, and you say, okay, I'll take that into account. Does that seem fair, or do you think
that's fine.
I read the whole thing and then I say at the end what I've changed?
Yep, that's fine. One other thing as well. It's really hot in the UK right now, and I say that from a UK standard because it's pretty mild in this country. I've heard people in California said it was 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's like, sorry, that temperature doesn't exist unless you're in an oven. Okay, so as a result, I've got my balcony door open behind me, so I've got a nice breeze working through my flat. So unfortunately, you might hear a bit of traffic. Hopefully it's not going to be too loud. You sometimes get idiots driving cars with noisy engines, but I also get quite a lot of ambulances going by. I don't know if you can hear that vehicle. So as a result, you may come across these things sometimes. I can only apologize. Anyway, so okay, Gary. So what I'll do is I'll screen share your original one, if that's okay, so people can read it. So that one, I'm going to zoom in just so you can see it nice and easy. Okay, present to everyone.
Okay.
Okay, go.
Give me the thumbs up where you want me to go.
Yep, go.
Okay. I know people are saying I'm defending G-Man. I'm not. Here's my actual position. Okay, I'm not, and I want to clarify for the record, I'm not defending G-Man's behaviour at all. He's been acting unreasonably, to my mind, for at least about 3 years. I'm sure to everyone else is about 5, maybe more for some other people. But that's when, for me, he became irredeemable. Anyway, we'll carry on. 1, everyone has a right to a job. And I put in close brackets. Unemployment sucks in every Western country. It is either underfunded or uses free work to supplement a broken system. As such, every person who can get a job should not lose a job unless it's under three things: stealing, doing a crime at work, murder, theft, fraud, sexual crimes. 2nd is they're not competent at a job. 3, costing service for that job directly. Now, this is one that I'd like to slightly amend. No one has a right to a job. I'm going to say that you shouldn't lose your job unless it's in those specific, because getting a job, especially under the specific economic climate now, difficult. Well, difficult is probably mild to is really hard because there's not that many people taking on. If they are, they're giving out shitty hours for it. So if you could get a 9 to 5, not 40-hour job that pays you pretty well, and I know he was getting below minimum wage. People were telling me that still sucks, but it was still like coin in the pocket, as it were. But we'll carry on. 2, it seems the allegation it is the great community is not a whole responsible, but I disagree. It seems a small sample, however, people are condoning it, speaking to an incident where a child was left in a lot store. I do not think this is the case. For one thing, why is a unsupervised child in a utility store? It seems more plausible that they came into the store after G-Man had unlocked it and surprised him in the back.
Okay, Gary, slight interruption. According to Kevin in the live chat, actually unemployment is at a record low in the US now. Sorry, go on.
No, it's fine. I'll take that correction. But that's one of the things I want to correct a little bit. The thing is, I've still not seen, and I have tried looking for it, this video of him and this little boy. But I have to go with what makes sense. Now, the thing is, if it was a toy store, I could understand, like, a parent sending in a little kid to have a look at the other side. It's like, you go along, Jimmy, I'll be there in a minute, to have a look at the dolls or look at the action figures or whatever. Or if it's a sweet shop, for them to have a look around if they want to get, a packet of sweets. From what I understand of the store G-Man worked in, and people can correct me in the chat, it was like a utility store that basically sell, like, what I consider whole goods. So basically, like concrete, like parts. I don't think there's anything that kid really would want in there, unless he's a real, like, kid that's like ahead of years when I was a kid.
It's basically a mini B&Q, a hardware store.
Yeah. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's basically like a Wix or whatever US version of Wix is.
The Americans have got. See what I meant about vehicles?
Yeah, it sounds like it's a little mom and pop's DIY hardware store.
So that's why I'm a bit.
It's a Blue Barrel store.
But yeah, it doesn't seem. I just want to know what parent would leave their kid in there. It just doesn't seem right if you just think it through for a minute. As I said, toy store, yeah, I could see. Sweet shop, I could see. Even ice cream shop, I could see. But utility store, I couldn't see a kid going around saying, "Do you know what I really want, Daddy? Is that piece of cement?" I just can't see that. It just doesn't make sense. But I mean, like,
well, hang on though. If I can just say, you effectively used your own idea of what happened, and it was pointed out below that you've misunderstood the situation.
Well, as I said, I've not seen the video, so I'd have to see the video.
So wait a minute, but this is you see, this is why I called it a Phoneybeetleargument. The title of the video is because you've effectively made a decision, and you're now making an opinion based upon information that you haven't actually seen yet. Do you see what I mean? It's not a good way to make an argument. You're basically saying this is an issue. Number 2 is an issue when you don't actually know the circumstances behind number 2. Okay,
I'm just saying, Cliff, that it's something that raises concerns for me. Again, if I see the video, and it is clear that there's no way that kid could have been in there and he was locked in there with him, I'll change my stance.
Why would you go on why would you make an issue out of a stance? I mean, if we look at your entire post here, okay, the positions, this one is based upon information that you don't have. Why would you be making an issue out of something that you don't know enough about to be able to make a position on it, make a certainty, have a grounding? You don't have a grounding of the situation to be able to make a judgment call on it. Does that make sense?
Okay, I'll explain why in a minute, but we'll get to number 3. People, sorry, I was reading for your screen. Sorry. people laughing at his plight. Now, losing a
Oh,
job
is that
sucks.
what that word is? Plight. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, no, I missed off the G. Sorry.
I'm sure you can.
No, losing a job sucks. I'm sure we have done it, and we should not mock. We should not mock as it's not pleasant. Okay. I think that's self-explanatory because again, we've all lost a job, and we all. I think most people in this chat can to the pain, the basically the embarrassment, and frankly like
No.
other people.
I actually can't. I've never lost a job unless I gave up that job. You know, the last job I had was working on the market selling fabric, and my boss was losing money. And I told him, I said, well, how much longer can you go on? And, you know, it was like about a month. And that month was going to be April. And I said, the start of April. And I said, you know what? You would be a fool to be doing this on April the 1st. And so he decided, yes, you know, he couldn't continue to keep losing money. And he folded up the business. And effectively, my advice made me unemployed. But, you know, it was the right thing to do. And he's now doing a different job, and he's doing perfectly fine. But you know, I've never given up a job. You know, I think if you've been sacked at one point or another, I don't know. To suggest that we've all had it happen, I don't think we all have. I'm sure there are plenty of people that have become redundant due to companies merging and all sorts of other reasons. You know. Yes, it's annoying and it might be embarrassing that, oh shit, I've now got to find another job and, you know, I've got bills to pay. And then you sort of say, well, you know, I can't do this because, you know, I've just been made unemployed and, you know, I've got to find another job. And, you know, you're having to effectively apologize for not being able to do certain things, go to cinema or whatever, go to the pub even.
Jackie's asking if she can join.
Jackie, yeah, sure. I'll send it to you on Skype. If that's okay, Gary.
That's absolutely perfectly fine. Jackie's a lovely person.
Yeah.
Okay, so to number 2, this is probably what I should have said, and this is probably one of the ways that I probably would change that post in this way. It should have read this. We are not certain of why he lost his job, and people should stop speculating into why unless they know for certain. Because again, he could have been fired just because maybe the business was downsizing. Maybe he was fired because I don't know. Maybe like he had done something in that business that was against company rules. Again, the thing is, there was lots of assumptions. Now the thing is, and this is something that I should have said in the poster, but I will say here. Mr. G-Man. Has done things that I think a normal employee would have sacked them for before, like making videos instead of serving customers.
Well, I mean, G-Man has pointed out that he had his boss's permission. Okay. Now, the problem is that now he's accusing people he got sacked because of what Atheist did, as opposed to him shutting and the company losing money because of what the Atheist did, as opposed to him picking up the phone, hello, and he gets a stupid voice, or he just puts the phone down without even speaking to it.
Okay.
Because that's how you deal with people who are trolling you. Mm-hmm. Now, he may not be able to do anything about having pizza and stupid shit like that being done. And again, you know, I said this in a video the other day. You know, I don't condone it. Gary Ridgway's have stopped it now, apparently. Well, they haven't got a choice, I suppose, because he hasn't got a job. They can't target him specifically. But either way, all the way through this, I said they shouldn't do it. And the reason why I said this is because, well, for two reasons. Number one, it's just douchey thing. It's taking the internet and going public with it. And I must point out that I made the mistake of doing that some time ago with Jason Burns. I challenged him on the street publicly because I knew where he preached. And the only reason I did that was because he was a coward. And, you know, Fiona went in a hangout and he disappeared because he couldn't face her because he knew what he'd done was wrong. And I got annoyed And I basically went, right, you can't escape me in Manchester. So I went there and I tried to talk to him and say, I'm going to hold you accountable. And then he tried pretending I didn't exist and tried loudly preaching. And then I talked to some idiot, yokel on the street, and he started to get a bit fresh with, Jason. At which point I stepped in and stopped him from happening.
We're digressing a bit.
Yes, we are.
Jackie says she has something to say about the job thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Go on.
Sorry, hi. I don't mean to backtrack, but there is something that kind of, and don't take this the wrong way, Gary, because I'm just saying how I feel. Okay, so when I read your post and I saw that you had can someone put up the post again?
Yep.
Sorry, I want to make sure I quote this exactly. Okay. Yeah, here we go. I'm assuming that's supposed to be everyone has a right to a job. I strongly believe against that. People do not have the right to work. They have the privilege of working. They have the right to the basic necessities, so housing, clothing, food, healthcare, right? But no one has the right to work. Companies are not forced to hire people. And honestly, companies should be able to dismiss or lay off employees whenever they want, for whatever reason they want, except for discrimination in terms of things that people can't control, like disability, color of their skin, sexual orientation, stuff like that.
Glad you added that, because I thought we were about to have a disagreement.
I'm sorry?
I said I'm glad you added that caveat, because I thought we were about to have a disagreement.
Oh, no.
Carry on, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't agree with the statement that everyone has a right to a job. I came out of college. I wouldn't say I believed that I was entitled to a job, but I sure acted like it. And that got me nowhere. So I came out of college thinking, okay, I have a degree. Someone's gonna give me a job. Like I acted as if a job was going to be handed to me on a silver platter.
Mm-hmm.
Never happened, right? And this is mostly from job inexperience. I had never had a job before because, in all of my breaks, and all of my college breaks, and throughout high school, all of my free time was consumed by doctor's appointments and surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to really work at finding a job. And, it's not fair for people who work really hard to gain the experience, to have good careers, and to have jobs if we lived in a society where people could just, waltz in and have a job. You have to have some sort of experience. You have to have some sort of education. And no one's entitled to a job. It just rubbed me the wrong way. That was my big... Because I'm not really involved with the G-Man drama. I have no interest in it. G-Man is just a blip on the internet to me. I really truly take what Lenny says to heart, and that's I don't pay for internet for it to make me feel miserable.
Mm.
So I have greatly distanced myself from all of this. I have spoken to people who are cool with G-Man in private about it, but I don't want to deal with it directly. I just had a problem with that first statement in your post, Gary. So that's all.
Yeah, thanks for that.
It's fine. It's very well articulated. Thank you for that, Jackie. What I meant by that is that from what I know about G-Man, again, maybe I'm making some assumptions here, he's an unskilled worker. like, what I mean by that, he doesn't really have a post-high school qualification that I don't think we can really point to. I mean, he claims to have them, but his truthfulness is not exactly 100%.
I would be surprised if he.
The truth tends to favour, doesn't it?
That's why I'm saying. Actually, I should have added that to the second statement as well. That me taking him at face value of what he's been saying, that people phoned up his job and all the stuff in his name, that was very naive on my part, because I should have known who I was dealing with. That his honesty when it comes to presenting what actually happened may not be exactly what did happen, and that was my fault, and I totally apologize for that.
Well, I mean, he has those video evidence to show that he did have prank calls, or at least one prank call rather.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think Phoney was talking about him in general, that he's not.
What I mean is that that was the reason that he was let go, was because of the equipment that he said was sent to his store. It's my fault for taking that at face value, because it could be for the reasons that Fiona and other people were saying, that he threatened somebody with a gun, that he brought him shit in, whatever. That could be totally fact. It's my fault that I took it at face value.
That apparently there is evidence for that, although I haven't seen it myself, I have to say. Because I said this, I created a caveat for him the other day, and I was told, no, there's video out there. And basically what happened was he's got, a BB gun, he's pointing it at the camera, talking about Dreadnought. So it's like, and of course, the irony of it is from this Christian point of view. If you look at a woman with lust, you've already committed adultery in life. If you, think, if you think about killing someone, you've already committed murder, kind of thing. Well, the fact he wants to shoot Dreadnought is an illustration that he wants to kill Dreadnought. But, whatever. Anyway, so, but basically he pointed the BB gun at the camera, shouting Dreadnought, and then he went, oh, you know what? And then he left and went, this will be funny. And then he went out to the counter area and scared a customer.
I would absolutely take that as a murder threat, and that might just be from my experience where I had a friend who died from a BB gun shot. So I don't know. Even though it was a BB gun, it still freaks me out.
Sorry. From what I've heard, it is illegal.
I would like to do to G-Man. Sorry, try again. This is what I would like to do to Dreadnought. That's what was going through his head, in my opinion.
From what I understand, that it is actually illegal to carry around a BB gun in New York, Jersey, wherever it is he lives. From what I've heard. I mean, from what I've heard from when I was in Hogtie's hangout earlier, was that the Gary Ridgeways of Gary, I don't know, whatever they're called. Yeah, they didn't, if I'm remembering correctly, and forgive me if I get this wrong, they were trolling him online initially. From what I understand, they first went offline into his private life when he threatened Miss Starr to go around to Miss Starr's house.
Right.
I think that it was certainly something to do with him threatening someone else. That's when they decided to do whatever it is. And I don't condone what they do in any way, shape, or form.
Can someone briefly explain to me, are we talking about a person who is gender neutral, or are we talking about a group of people? Because I'm actually kind of out of the loop on the scary.
From what I understand, it's a group of people, but I don't know, to be honest.
Wait, what? A group of people sharing one account, or?
No, I think they have different accounts in the same name.
I think there's about 3 or 4 individual accounts, but about a dozen who are using them together.
Okay.
But whatever the case, I mean, it doesn't matter. This is pretty much irrelevant, really. G-Man had enough he would create lies and conspiracies about atheists long before he had anything to, to actually any tangible evidence that he was being targeted. He would say atheists are trying to kill me because some other atheist, probably someone from the Drunken Peasants, left a comment under one of his videos, a death threat type thing.
Which recently been claiming that he didn't go to meet Sam in New York because Sam had a gun and was going to shoot. He had a pistol. I think he was very. It's like, and this was before all this. From what I don't know. Yeah, I'm not very good at timelines. I admit that freely.
Yeah. Okay, but but I'm going to just say, like, to what Jackie was saying, because I think we've lost this thread a little bit. What I was saying in that is that I think it's a right, as in that we all have a right to not be harassed at our job, and this is where a bit of a private story is going to come out a little bit. Now, somebody from the internet phoned up my job while I was working there. Now, I've not discussed this before because I've left the employment, but I'm discussing it now. They phoned up my employment, and it took. I didn't get fired, but I got in trouble for it and said, "Who is this? Who is this person?" Blah blah blah. It turned out it wasn't this person because I confronted them online about it privately. They said it wasn't them. Somebody pretended to be them. So I phoned in a couple of favors that I'm owed. And basically, I never got harassed at that job again after that. So when I say that I have empathy for G-Man, I have a lot of empathy for G-Man. And the thing is that this is probably clearly my view of it, is that that people have the right to a job and not to be harassed at it. Now, if people want to mock G-Man, fine. If people want to insult G-Man, fine. If people want to do stuff to G-Man, fine. What my problem is that he has the right to do his job, even if it's stacking barrels. And seriously, I didn't really have. I had a problem with people mocking the fact that you're stacking barrels for a living, because you do what you have to do to put food on the table.
Well, I mean, the thing about that was that he was trying to compare himself to other people. He was basically using the fact that he has a job, even if it's just stacking blue barrels, to attack Dreadnought because he was at school. He wasn't doing a real job because he needed a way to attract Dreadnought. And so the reason that stuff came about is like, yeah, you got a job stacking barrels, and Dreadnought studying to be I don't know whether he intends to be a doctor or not. I'm not sure, but certainly he wants to cure cancer.
Cancer research.
Yeah, he wants to be a cancer research guy. So. And it takes time to do that. You don't just, you know what? Today I'm going to go and get a job as a cancer research, guy.
Right. I haven't watched this video yet, but I'm led to believe this is the video with the lock-in.
Funnily, okay.
Okay, I'm just going to favourite that.
Well, funnily enough, I've got the BB gun one lined up now. If we should watch that, I don't know.
Sorry, I'm just putting that one with that thing you just shared. I'm going to add that to my favourites.
No, I don't have controls.
So I can watch that later.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, something I will say is that, if what you meant, Gary, was that someone shouldn't lose a job over someone harassing that person, then yeah, I get it. However, I do have to side with maybe a company might not want to have to deal with that. But the person at fault is not the company for firing him. The person at fault would be the one who's harassing and calling the company, I would say. So, I don't know how. I don't know how to express how much I do not condone what happened or whatever happened with whoever was calling G-Man's work and whatnot, or maybe ordering things. I have no idea what happened, but if someone did truly like cause that chain of events to happen, then that really, really sucks. However, I guess if I were a business owner and G-Man was my employee and I found out he was waving a BB gun around and he was threatening customers and he would, I don't know what happened with the lock kid, so I'm not even gonna mention that. But even just the fact that he was waving around a BB gun at work, he would have been fired like on the spot.
Yeah.
If that were me.
No,
I just want to. We're kind of getting away from the. Really, what this comes down to is that G-Man's attitude is, is directly responsible to his situation right now. It's not because he's a Christian; it's because he's an arsehole that this has happened to him. Look, isn't it strange how atheists haven't targeted Holy Spackle or Fiona, or even Jade when she was around. People didn't do that. Now you can find Jade's information pretty easily, and yet she didn't have people having food delivered to her because she's a Christian. No, it's because she wasn't an arsehole. And so, and this brings up the whole point of the argument that came out throughout that thread, because although the first part of the thread is that, there was this bit where you effectively...
No, I can discuss what I said, and we could go from there. I basically said about the whole... I think he started I don't know if it's a Patreon or if it's a GoFundMe. It was some sort of...
Oh, sorry. Good point. Happy Jesus 123. G-Man has claimed to have 2 jobs: the barrel stacking job and the construction job. As far as we know, he's not been fired from his construction
probably got
job.
fired from that as well. Happy Jesus, because he talked about losing both jobs.
Right.
Okay, well, as far as I know, nobody.
Maybe
I don't know.
Same owner, 2 different.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It might be that he was employed at both by the same owner. Yeah, he's exactly, because it seems likely because it was a construction store, utility store. Anyway,
I don't know.
What I said.
Hang on. I just want to address something, because Fiona brought something up in this, because in your post you were saying that it seems the allegation is that the Great Debate community is not a whole responsible as whole responsible, but I disagree. It seems to be a small sample, however people are condoning it. Now Fiona says this. I'm just going to repeat what she says, and she says, and it starts here. So please tell me how I or anyone else who is a part of the community is responsible. Gary Ridgway was apparently a whole bunch of people suspected to have come from 4chan. More than once, I and others, my close self included, called for it to stop. More than once, I and others said this is not on. How is saying I do not think, don't do this, it's not right, is condoning it in any way? We spoke out. Where were you? I was the one who explained the incident of the child to you, so I can only assume that you're referring to me when you said that mentioning the child is somehow condoning prank calls. I described to you that the events that unfolded live on air. How is that condoning a prank call? Also, you seem to have missed the part where G-Toddler handles the entire situation in the worst possible way that he could. By your own admission, when you first decided to open your mouth about this, you had no idea what had happened on the video with the phone call and the child. You had no idea about the latest BB gun nonsense. You had no idea of the customers being chucked out and the store being closed during business hours so that G-Man could live stream a phone call. Yes, he closed his employer's job to live stream. Now, until you know precisely why his employer decided to fire him, how could you How on earth can you hold anyone in this community to blame? Now, please explain to me how it's more plausible that a child came into the store after G-Man locked up. How many small kids do you know that can float through a locked shop front? You know less about what happened than the rest of us, and we have no idea that his employer's actual reason was for that this.
I think you're up to
what his actual you have no idea what his employer's actual reason for firing him. Until you know that for a fact, it's best for you not to decide to go blaming people, which is what I was saying before. You say it's his employer's right to fire him. It's not on us. Did we fire him? Sorry, it's not on us, yeah. Did we fire him? No. Did we get him fired? No. Or maybe you're the one of the Garys, and that's what you said us. She was making a sort of cynical joke. Now, as to your performance in the live chat of Drav's Hang, don't even go there. Using moral blackmail to force people to give a voluntary donation is pretty nasty. To say to people, if you don't donate, then shame on you, is moral blackmail. And very few people appreciate that sort of thing. Even worse, you came out that day after he accuses Hannah, Gus, and Annabelle of running a fraudulent fundraiser and warns us not to trust those online fundraisers. Less than 24 hours after that, he'd been talking about his second fundraiser in 2 months. As an aside, yeah, that doesn't really matter. Now, you then start doubling down on the moral blackmail thing. And I think that's something we should talk about.
Okay, let's talk about it calmly then,
Okay.
because I'm particularly offended by that. Firstly, what I'll say is that this community, when it's at its best, when it's at its greatest, and this is my mind, maybe you see it differently, is supportive, even of those we hate. I mean, there's one person I would never donate to in the month of Sundays, and that's Brett Key, because he's been shown time and time. I mean, this is not just once, this is not just twice, this is multiple occasions to be dishonest with the funds he receives. He doesn't use it on the things he says he needs, which is, food, rent, electricity, bills, whatever. Whereas from what I understood for G-Man, he did need that money for that. Now, from what I understand about the first Patreon that he made, because I think I remember, it was to fund him going on some street preaching thing. I think it was either in New York or it was somewhere that he doesn't live. It's somewhere that was a bit of a cost a bit of pennies to go towards. I don't think you can compare that to I've lost my job and I need a bit of extra help, to get me over the line. Now the thing is, that's my problem is that we're in a community that likes to help. Yet I saw people saying, "Oh, he could go on the staff. Oh, he could go on the street. He could go that this." That was what was pissing me off.
Well, yeah, but I mean, why should? Yeah, but look, if your opinion is okay, the guy's a jerk, but he's in need, I'm prepared to donate. I leave it up to you to decide whether you want to, or I suggest other people do, or I advise other people to do. To as well, that would be fine. But to use the words, where is it? If you don't donate, then shame on you. So if I don't donate to G-Man, shame on me? Seriously?
No. I've changed my stance. I've changed my stance on that.
Okay, good. Because the way I see it, I think, fuck you. That would be my attitude to that.
Okay, because I understand.
I just want to qualify things, okay? Because I'm going to explain this in a manner. Let's just use a hypothetical situation that happens in real life, okay? Mm-hmm. So what happens is you've got someone. Let's say a bit like you, I suppose. You got a job, okay, and you live in a flat. Do you live in an area with other people? I live in a flat, okay? So there's loads of people around. Now, let's imagine this hypothetical person. They work kind of different hours to the rest of us. So they don't work 9 to 5. They work 4 till midnight, okay? So what happens is the time that you are, a 9 to 5er, well, they'll go home and then they'll watch the TV and maybe they'll play some music. But, about 9 o'clock, it'll get quieter. And then, 11, 12, it'll just go off because they go to bed. Mm-hmm. But this idiot is one of these people who likes to play really loud music. But their off time is, starts at midnight. So at 1 or 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, they're blazing loud music from, their home, keeping all their neighbors awake, which adds stress to their lives. They can't sleep, they can't function well because they're not getting the sleep that's required. And so their lives started becoming a hell. And so what they do is they complain, maybe they complain to the neighbor who threatens them. Because we're thinking, we're drawing an analogy with G-Man here, okay? So what happens is they get threatened, threatened that, they're going to do something about it, the people who are complaining, the people that are challenging them on the behavior. Maybe they're throwing beer cans, or maybe they're chucking stones at their windows, things like that, because they don't appreciate being told what to do, in their own home, even though it's screwing up everybody else that's around them. And so, here they come now, you see. Someone's threw stones. And
just was that suspect.
Anyway, so then what happens is the people around, they complain to the council. And they get warnings and warnings, but they're not paying attention because they don't give a crap, right? They're belligerent and they just don't want to change, Screw them, screw everybody else. I'll do whatever I want. And then what happens? They get evicted. Okay? So how is it, to sort of say, if I don't donate to the person that's got evicted because of their own actions, the consequences. Now let's add the Gary Ridgway factor into this, okay? Someone, one of the neighbors may have the same, have an attitude where they think with their fists. And so what they decide to do is take it upon themselves and punch the guy's lights out. So he can't work anymore. So now not only has he been kicked off the street, he's having to live with someone else. And, he can't work. So, as a result of all that, the guy's now destitute and could do with some help. Well, would I be expected to help this person? This neighbor that's been causing a shit time for me? Or my friends, I may not live in the area, but, a member of my family or friends who lives in, the area where he's been causing this nuisance. Should I have to donate? Should I be shamed if I don't donate to this guy? That the guy can't walk, he's got a broken leg or something. I should have to donate so that he can walk to buy the crutches for him. For basically shooting himself in his own foot with his attitude. That's the way, when you said, if you don't donate, shame on you, that's what goes through my head. G-Man is responsible for his plight. It's not even the Gary Ridgways, really. Because the Gary Ridgways is, basically a bunch of people who just weren't prepared to take it anymore. They basically said, you know what, fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. I know where he works. I'm going to now retaliate against him. He's been retaliating about everybody else, accusing people of all sorts of things, including crimes. I'm going to retaliate. Now, I don't condone it. I do understand why people lose their temper and say, and the line gets crossed. They've been taken to that line and taken closer and closer and closer, and it gets to that, 1 minute to midnight point, and it just takes one little tick over for that clock, and boom. That's the circumstances. But the Gary Ridgway thing is a direct consequence of G-Man's actions. It's not the community that did this. It's G-Man that did it to himself. That's the end result of it.
Okay. First, I'm not blaming the entire community for it. I don't think the community as a whole mobilized itself to do this to him. So I don't think it's fair that anybody's blaming. I don't think it's fair that G-Man himself is blaming the community for it, because it's the actions of, I don't know, a few people.
A minority.
A minority, definitely. The fact that he's blaming Dragnet and Hannah and Fiona and me and God knows who else for it is ridiculous. It's the actions of a few individuals who took it upon themselves to do this. So no, it's not fair that what I'm suggesting is that we help somebody in need, a human being in need, because look, G-Man is a character. I know people have laughed about me when I've said this before. There's a difference between G-Man the character and Gary Moore the person.
Doesn't matter. Sorry, it doesn't matter.
No. It does matter because it's like saying I hate Tony Montella, but Albertino the actor I'm not going to help. It's like Albertino the actor.
No, that is a bad comparison in my opinion. G-Man is behaving in a specific way online, outright to other people online. He's not acting. He's not in a film that we're watching.
Yeah.
He's not. I mean, he is entertainment. So, sorry. So go on, Jackie.
Can I just say I detest this idea that anyone in the community is entitled to my hard-earned money.
Yes.
I worked overtime. I've struggled long and hard to even get the wonderful job that I have now. I choose who is deserving of my donation.
Yes.
Because I'm the one who worked hard for that money.
Yeah.
Not anyone else.
I was chatting with Dee about this earlier, and I said, let's imagine there's 2 homeless shelters. Okay, one of them is people who've just fallen across hard times. A bit like was mentioned earlier. Factory closed. They ended up unemployed. They couldn't pay the bill.
Mental health issues.
Yeah, those sorts of things. They ended up basically losing their home as a result of it. Okay, and then you've got another charity that helps people who fucked up their own lives by being fucking assholes. Okay, so they knowingly, deliberately put their, the roof over their head at risk by being jerks. The aforementioned, example of the noisy neighbor who's had warnings and warnings and warnings, hasn't paid attention, has been belligerent, and then ended up getting evicted. Okay, so we got one charity that helps the people that have just had an unfortunate circumstance, or series of circumstances even, and then we've got other ones which are arseholes. So you're thinking about donating some money to a homeless charity. Which one are you going to go for? I think I can speak for almost every single person and say that this group is not the one you're going to give your money to. It's going to be the people that you think deserve it, and it really comes down to deserves it.
Okay.
Does G-Man deserve our sympathy for for shooting himself in his own foot?
I can give you an actual real life analogy. In fact, I think it was the last comment I left on your thread, Phoney. A friend of a friend got sent down. I think it was only for a few months, but he got sent to prison. The case that was where he'd stolen a bicycle, and he was outraged. He could not believe he was going to prison for merely stealing a bicycle. What he didn't think about was when he went to court, what was taken into consideration was all the other offences he'd committed and either gotten, not let off, what's the term? He either got a fine or he got let off with a caution. He kind of forgot all about those. And the fact that a whole pile of shit had got him this custodial sentence, not merely stealing a bicycle. And that is Gary in a nutshell. He's behaved like an arsehole time after time after time. Got to sound like Gary now, going again and again and again and again. And this is what's happened.
Yeah, I mean,
one thing. Oh, hold on. One thing I do want to say, just to balance this out just a little bit, is that I will say that I don't agree with shaming people who are donating to G-Man. It's really up to other people where they want to, for me, it's all about choice and individual choice and what people want to do with their money. I don't agree in shaming people for donating to G-Man. I'm just gonna kind of maybe shake my head a little bit, but you know, it is what it is. And everyone's different. Like, we might have the sweetest people in the world donating to J-Man because they feel bad for him. I'm not gonna fault them for having those feelings. I'm just not gonna do it myself.
That's actually what I want Ultimate stance on, because the thing is, people have had their interactions with G-Man that have been worse than mine. So it's not up to me to dictate to them how they feel about it, because, like, for example, Hollis Beckle, Hannah, Mr. have all been physically threatened by him. So it's not up to me, because because that causes trauma. Now, the thing is that different sorts of traumas trigger different things in different people. So, you know, it's not fair of me to expect a victim of trauma to be willing to help the person who caused that trauma. That's not fair in the least. So that's wrong for a start off. And the second thing, there's people who are friends with those people who, you know, who are even more than friends. With those people like Redline used to go up with Hannah, you know, people like that. People have really good, you know, seriously, I've never really spoken to Hannah one-on-one, I don't think. Or if I have, I can't recall it. But there are people who are seriously good friends. So I'd like to apologise now, saying shame on you, because again, that would include people like that. It would include people who've been, you know, verbally assaulted by him. You know, people like Fiona, people like Dreadnought, where they've been, like, you know, verbally and physically threatened by him. You know, and that's no shame on them if they don't want to help that person, because
Sabella.
Sabella, when she was told when she was mocked about the fact that she can't have children.
I mean, that was just nasty the way you said those things.
Yeah. I mean, you know, that's the kind of attitude. You know, when you put shame on you, my attitude, and I actually posted this under your thread, I said, you know, I wouldn't piss on that guy if he was on fire. Not only would I not piss on him if he was on fire, it's a bit warm right now. I wouldn't even wipe my hand with my sweaty balls and flick them in his general direction. That's how little I care about G-Man's plight. It is all of his own making, you know, and like I say, while I don't condone what the Gary Ridgways did, you know, the end result is he gave the ammunition to other people to screw over his life. If he hadn't gone out, if he hadn't given his real name and he hadn't gone out onto the streets to show where he worked, then they wouldn't have been able to do any of this. If he'd have stayed, if he was at work and just made videos at home, it would have been, you know, they wouldn't have had the, you know, way to do it.
Right, but the thing is
I was just going to say, I don't think we can, not that you were justifying it, but I can't think of another word. Just because he went out and inadvertently, because he's a freaking moron, let slip exactly where he lived is not an excuse. But and I know that isn't what you were saying. I just wanted to say what's happened is his behaviour has encouraged. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Yes, it's provoked. Yeah, and okay, I think people should not be contacting work. I wouldn't, you know, not even Ram Campbell, not even Brett Keane. I wouldn't say go contact their employers. Sorry.
Right.
But I have no sympathy for G-Man, even though I think what was done to him was morally wrong, for want of a better term. I don't think it was the correct thing to have done. I personally wouldn't do it. I don't, you know, I'd like, do I sound like Gary then? Don't I? If only then I wouldn't have done it. Sorry. I failed to find any sympathy within me for what has happened to him, even though what happened to him is technically wrong, or is just.
It's not technically wrong. It is wrong.
It is wrong, yeah.
It's wrong, but, you know, technically, we don't have to feel sympathy for his plight.
No, I mean, the thing is that here's my problem, Cliff, and maybe this is something you can see me past. If this was the shoe was on the other foot, and this was somebody, I don't know, pick a person. Maybe we all might to a extent, but maybe don't get on with the best.
Richard Carrier?
Yeah, pick it.
If it was Richard Carrier, would you donate money?
Yeah, yes.
Would you though?
Yes,
Why
because
should you
because as much as I disagree with him, I don't want to see the fucking guy go homeless and hungry. It's not again. I don't like G-Man either. See, this is the thing that people don't get.
Yeah, but I can't help but notice, you know, and I've seen this, and you know, the Sam Harris is another example. I can't remember the Four Horsemen, Dawkins. You know, the amount of times that you will cut G-Man a break, and the number of times basically the number is never that you will cut Dawkins or Carrier a break. No, you'll just call them fucking arseholes.
We've been almost vitriolic towards some of them.
Oh, okay, but I mean, like that was me in the past.
I'm holding your feet to the fire with that character. Okay. Obviously, they're not in this community, are they?
But I'll just have to say that was in the past, though. I've suffered my stance a little bit. I'd say a lot, because the thing is, like, I would French kiss those guys rather than be in the same room as G-Man. Let me just be clear, because like, whatever else is true about G-Man, he did this, and this has pissed me off beyond I can tell you. He pissed on the grave of somebody that I'm still getting over their death of. Okay, I'm really upset about that. And he's pissed me off today since then. And then let's not forget the fact he's threatened 3 women. He's threatened somebody else.
Apparently, he's threatened Gary. He's threatened me, Gary. Oh, Gary. Yeah, another Gary. I think Star, Drag, JD's kids, Hannah, MP, Mrs. D, and their son, etc.
Yeah.
So fuck that noise. I will never ever condone somebody threatening somebody, because look,
somebody's on the video down.
Right.
Sorry, I was distracted there.
That's fine. I'm just saying that, like, I hate G-Man. So let's get that open board. I hate him because he.
Hang on. Do you hate G-Man or do you just hate his behavior? Because I don't actually hate G-Man. I hate his behavior. I think he's a fake Christian. He professes it but doesn't behave. You know, he doesn't read his Bible and do what it says. Everything Jesus says don't do, G-Man does. You know, that bit of Proverbs 6:16, the things that are abomination of God, describe G-Man perfectly. You know, he sows discord, he breathes out lies, etc. You know, so he devises wicked plans. So these are things that the Bible said that are an abomination to God. I mean, I remembered that verse when he was doing, you know, homosexuals, it's an abomination to God. Really? Well, so's G-Man's behavior. But whatever, doesn't matter. Okay?
We threatened scientist Sam with a machete too.
Yep.
The list goes on.
You know, they're just piles of them. You know, anybody who disagrees with him, you know, he's accused Hogtie of sniping. Never done that, ever.
Any Christian who disagrees with him isn't a real Christian.
Okay,
yeah. But either way, the whole point is, I don't hate G-Man. Okay, I hate his behavior, I hate his attitude, but it takes too much fucking energy to hate someone. You know, I despise them for a short amount of time, and then I basically say, that guy's a waste of fucking time, and that's it. And effectively, I've no interest in having a conversation with G-Man. I was interested in having a conversation with him until a few months ago, you know, but he's avoided me and whatever, you know, it doesn't really matter.
It's not actually possible to have a conversation with him, let's be
My
honest.
reason for doing it was like, okay, what makes this guy tick? And let's just have a conversation. But, you know, you can't have a conversation with G-Man. It's a waste of time.
Nope.
Just a complete waste of time. So you might as well not bother. There are plenty of other people you can have a conversation with.
Okay.
You know, but either way, you know, G-Man, Ronnie, they're not interested in the conversation. Why even bother? Them boycotting atheist channels? Well, they never went on them anyway. Nothing to boycott.
Okay, but sorry.
Like I say, I don't hate G-Man. You said you hate G-Man. Do you?
No. I hate his behaviour. Sorry. But the point is, Cliff, what I'm defending here is not G-Man's behaviour. What I'm defending is his right to have a life away from the internet and have no one fuck with that.
Well, you know, that's really easy. All he has to do is get off the internet, get a job, and stop being a dick. He can even go on the internet, continue being a dick, but just stop showing people where he lives, where he works. If he does that, if he just like me, I make videos from my home. If he does that, he shouldn't have any problems. As much as an arsehole as he is, and he may even deserve people giving him a shit time, you know, or sorry, not deserve. There may be a justification for people to get pissed off enough at him and, you know, do something horrible, which, again, I disagree with. I don't condone like the Gary Ridgways have done. You know, as much as he, you know, that may be, you know, as the Bible says, you know, in Galatians, I think it is, you reap what you sow. G-Man has reaped what he sowed.
Okay.
All of it. But, you know, it still comes down to why do you think anybody should do him a favor? I mean, I'm not suggesting for a second that, you know, like Jackie said earlier, if someone wants to donate, fine. I mean, I didn't even think about that until Jackie said it. I wouldn't stand in anybody's way if they want to donate to G-Man. I might ask myself, why the hell would you do that? But whatever, you know, if they think that they want to do it, that's fine. And if you want to do it, Gary, that's fine. But when you said shame on you if you don't, sorry. And even trying to, you know, I think even trying to justify it when you know what a worthless piece of shit he is, I think I find that logic questionable.
Okay. Here's the problem, though, Cliff. And maybe this is something that I need to... When I see people laughing about it, that's a shame. When I see people mocking it, it's a shame. Because, again, there's nothing to mock. You know, sometimes we fall through the cracks. Sometimes it's our fault.
No, Gary, we don't fall through the cracks. G-Man has literally got a bulldozer, carved up the street, and dived in the fucking hole. He didn't fall in the cracks. This is all of his making.
Yeah.
Falling in the cracks is he inadvertently did something. No, he didn't inadvertently do anything. He effectively created enough enemies and they reacted.
But the point is that, like, there are people look, I do not like G-Man behavior, but there's certain people's in the, you know, I can name on other sides behaviors that I don't like, but I've donated money to them because, again, it's not about whether I like that person; it's about helping that person out in a time of need. Now, the thing is, if it's I don't want to help him because he's done this to me, fair enough. If it's I can't help him because I don't have enough money, fair enough. That's fair enough. It was because people are like mocking it that I was having a problem. That's what pissed me off. I can't help being pissed off by that. Because I'm sorry, like, you know, it's not your position to laugh at somebody because, you know, they've run on a hard time. You know, no matter whose fault it is, you know, sometimes people run on hard times.
But that's not running hard times. He has created hard times. These didn't accidentally happen.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, and I could be mistaken, obviously I haven't seen everybody's videos or comments about him. I haven't directly seen anyone laughing about him losing his job. I've just heard people saying they don't care because of how he's behaved and he's brought it on himself.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of anyone actually directly laughing and mocking him because he's lost the job. They've mocked him for other things and they don't have much sympathy, or if any sympathy at all, because of what's happened to him in his job.
Well, I have seen it myself. I mean, I'm not going to name dates, but I have seen it.
Well, like I'm saying, I haven't seen. I'm not saying it hasn't happened. I don't know, but I haven't seen it. I've only heard people just not.
Right,
you know,
I mean, let's argue that Dragnaut has done this just to, you know, create, you know, given the shit that's gone on with Dragnaut, do you think, that Dreadnought is justified in thinking, serves the fucker right?
See, because
Tony wants to join. Sorry.
Who wants to join? Sorry.
He's got the link. Tony.
Yeah, sorry. I have to remember to just read things not out loud in the middle of someone else's sentence.
It's all right. Don't worry about it.
We all have our afflictions.
Do I think it's justified that but again, the thing is that I can't answer what's right in Dreadnought's mind.
Sorry?
I can't answer for what's right in Dreadnought's mind. Because again, I've only seen what Dreadnought has posted to his channel.
Okay.
So again, I don't know how far it's gone. In that sense, so he might have gone to a sense even that I don't know about. That's not fair for me to comment on if it's gone. I mean, like, I only know about some things that again Dreadnought has said that has happened, and again, if those things have happened, then she or not a Dreadnought on G-Man for doing those things.
Yeah,
and I can understand him having no sympathy for it, for him, but again, like, I'm sure there's been times in Dreadnought's life where, like, he needed that extra, that hand up to lift him up. And sometimes maybe it doesn't come from the source you think it's going to.
But the thing is, Phony, G-Man has done nothing directly to me. He hasn't threatened me. He hasn't ridiculed me. Well, to the best of my knowledge, anyway. Okay, he probably doesn't even know I exist. Still doesn't mean I don't feel the same way about him. Maybe not as strongly, but I wouldn't necessarily, anyway, I won't go into that. It doesn't matter that he hasn't done it to you. You know he has done it to other people because you've seen him. I'm sure you must have seen him making those threats. You've heard him come up with all the lies and crap he's talked about other people. You know how he behaves. It doesn't matter that he hasn't done anything to you.
Okay, we've got Sabella. She can't use a mic at the moment, but she's got stuff that she can type in the side.
I was going to say Tony's joined, and if Tony has anything to say, we'll give him the floor. No, sorry, sorry.
Can I just break up the seriousness to comment that I just ate a bunch of donuts and I feel really happy?
Oh, God bless you.
I thought you were going to say something.
Oh, God bless you for that.
See, now you're just going to make me miserable, Jackie, because I ate too many donuts and now I'm not happy.
Oh, no.
You're wrong. Right.
No, I hit a target weight for last week and I rewarded myself with donuts.
Oh.
But the thing that you're failing to take into account with this donut problem is that American donuts have a lot more sugar in them than English donuts. So this is the reason why Cliff is feeling horrible because he's bloated, and you're feeling happy because you're on a sugar high at the moment.
I'm always on a sugar high.
Yes,
I mean, come on, my avatar is pushing in a donut.
You see, there's a unicorn pussy in the donut.
Yes.
That sounded so wrong.
It does.
Oh God, no! I can't repeat a comedian I heard the other day that this is not the time or place. But remind me later about donuts and female comedians, please.
Okay.
You've already put the image in my head.
Yeah, the reason, so you're so full of, yeah. The reason you're so sweet is because you're so full of sugar.
So much sweet, money from my heart. Oh, apparently it's not true. English donuts are just as yummy as sugary goodness.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
According to Renee, I don't know. I don't eat donuts. I don't mean I've never had a donut in my life. It's just not something I eat as a general rule because I don't really like them.
I mean, their cookies are the most addictive thing I've ever had in my life. I stopped at a petrol station in the USA. I picked up a cookie because it looked yummy, and I was on a sugar high before I got back to the car.
I've had American chocolate, and well, let's just move on.
That was
No, I totally agree with that. I hate American chocolate. It's way too sugary. Yeah. No, I agree with that. Obviously, like, Belgian chocolate is the way to go.
Dark chocolate.
yes, dark chocolate, lovely.
Yes.
Lovely.
Then Belgian chocolate. But yeah, I just.
Yeah.
I mean, I will not condemn anyone who chooses to give to G-Man. I don't know how the benefit system works in America. There's been some discussion in the live chat. I was under the impression that in some ways it's perhaps similar to the UK, that even if you get fired, because you've paid into the system, you will get unemployment benefit once that runs out. If you've been fired and it's your own fault, tough titties. I don't really know, but from what I understand, he has family that will look after him. He's got his brothers online. Why can't they help him? If people want to donate, they're free to donate. It's up to them. I personally will not donate because I'm not going to enable him thinking it's okay to behave that way and then get paid for it.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, it's not like he's gonna lose the roof over his head, right? Like he's not on the brink of homelessness, is he?
He said he is.
Yeah, well, he says a lot of things. Like Mark,
sorry, but
okay, then I don't know what to believe. I'm not gonna comment on that.
Sorry, can I just read a comment from Marked by Moron?
Yeah.
Sorry, was that what you were about to do? Even if thousands laughed, he laughed at Jade being in hell and dozens of other horrible nonsense. I don't support the Ridgeways, but G-Man, in brackets, not handling it is his doing, not some prankster. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Holy Smack put it well. She called him a terrorist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, it's possible G-Man was working illegally, which will mean he's not entitled to unemployment.
Yeah, I think he was being paid under the counter in that job.
Could be. That's a good point.
Okay, but the problem I have is that the unemployment. Well, as I said, I can only speak to it from this country. Again, I don't have enough understanding of the one because I know that it's a state by state thing. So I'm not sure how the New Jersey thing in unemployment and stuff. But as soon as there's enough similarities for me to make a comparison, it sucks. And that's all I'm saying is that, like,
he's got $1,000. He was waving it around however long ago that was.
Yeah.
okay.
Weeks ago, I think.
And if he's only on $8 an hour, how many months' wages is that? I don't know how many hours he works, but
could it just be that he was making another lie about how much money he's got?
I certainly wouldn't donate to him, and the reason I wouldn't donate to him was something that someone else pointed out earlier on, not in this hangout, but somewhere else. If G-Man now is unemployed, he's got a lot more free time. If he does have the address information for the 3 women that is threatened, and I donate to him, I'm basically giving him money for him to be able to carry out that threat.
Oh yes, I did see that comment somewhere.
It was on my thread posted by Holly's Buckle.
Yeah, and there's absolutely no way I will give that creep the opportunity to actually go and harm a woman. And he has harmed women. It may only be vocally, and I've seen many of these stupid fundamentalist twits saying, "Oh, they're only words." I'm sorry, but the most powerful weapon we actually have as human beings is words. And they hurt.
You look at what he's threatened to do to Hannah. to go and bang on her door. Well, apparently he doesn't know where she lives anyway. But, you know, to go around the streets posting pictures of her all over the place using her photo, which isn't generally available. You know, that is a terrible thing to do to a woman. You know, and it kind of, you know, it's kind of like the school bully, because he's a bully. You know, again, it's terrorism. You know, it's, oh, I have the power to do this. Well, he only lives across the water from New York. You know, if he were, you know, if he was making threats about Fiona, it's a little harder to take it seriously because, you know, that's 3,500 miles away. A little bit harder. If it's Drag's wife, well, that's a considerable distance away. You know, so again, kind of harder to perpetuate. But just across, you know, $6-10, you know, for a train ride.
Yeah, on top of which is all well and good if somebody, and I don't deny having had this thought myself. He's a liar. He's probably not going to carry out these threats, but we don't know if one day he isn't going to crack further than he's already cracked and actually do something. Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, he's unstable. He's unstable enough to do them.
Here's the thing. I need to point out something. It's maybe hyperbole, it may not be. But a few years ago, probably about 5, I think it was, or something, there was a guy who had an atheist channel, and he went out and murdered someone that he was in contact with in that, you know.
Oh.
That was some years ago, because someone disagreed with him on the internet. You know, he actually did that. Now, I can't remember the details exactly, but, you know, some people might remember it. If they want, you can stick it in the comments or the side chat or something. But, you know, there was an incident. And, you know, he killed someone, or killed a woman, and then shot himself. So it's not like things can't happen. You know. That's why I don't have anything to do with G-Man. I really don't. I mean, I'll you know, maybe post from his side chat occasionally and join hangouts where I'm talking about him. But I'm not going to talk to him.
No.
I'm not going to talk to him. I mean, even when you know, I was in his side chat, most of it was talking about him.
But the funny thing is, when G-Man comes into any hangout where a point has to be raised, he won't actually get to that point. Won't actually give an explanation for that that action that he's come up with or anything like that. He'll just divert onto something else and basically knock everyone out of the conversation by saying, well, they're not a Christian, so they can't comment, blah, 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 blah. So you can't have a conversation. It's physically impossible to have a conversation with you.
Okay.
I say that not Drag, who is it? I can't remember who it was. Someone said they did have a decent conversation with G-Man, but it kept so far away from religion that it was ridiculous. You know, religion didn't raise its head, and they had a decent conversation with G-Man.
People have had off-air hangouts where he's been in, and the subject of religion hasn't risen its ugly head. In terms of G-Man, I don't mean in general, but the subjects. But I don't care.
Oh, I don't care either. I actually think he is one of the worst lowlifes I've ever had the misfortune to run into in my lifetime.
Okay, but I want to ask people this hangout this question.
Gary, just before you do, Sabella pointed out about the one I was talking about, and she said he wasn't an atheist; he was a professional Christian that followed.
Professing Christian, not professional.
It was totally
one of Venom X's followers.
Oh, Christ!
It was Tony something or other, and it was Asia McGowan.
Tony Hooper. Well, no, I'm only joking, Tony. I'm sorry.
I'm a professional Christian.
I'm sorry. Carry on.
He was a large black guy. It was Asia McGowan was a victim. If people want to look that up.
Let us Google that.
All right. I know who you're talking about, but I'd like to ask this question. Hopefully, do you honestly think that G-Man is going to follow through with any of the threats he does online?
I believe he is of the mental level that he does not see right from wrong and is quite capable of following through with those actions.
Okay. Well, this is going to be a fundamental disagreement because I think he's basically a clown. He's doing this part. He's like getting mad at someone doing, I don't know, Beth or something.
Hey, Fiona.
Hey, Fiona.
No, I'm sorry. I think he is capable of such actions. End of story.
Did you say, Gary, did you say he was playing a role?
He is playing a role, yeah.
No, he's not playing a role.
No.
Look at the amount of time that he's been on the internet, and his character has not wavered in the slightest.
I'll tell you when he's playing a role. When he's pretending to apologise to people.
Oh, no.
When
no.
he had 2 minutes silence for Jade. That's him playing a freaking role.
I'm sorry, no. Every single apology he's made has had a caveat.
That's what I mean, but it's still him playing a role, as in he's not being a complete... Well, he is still being... But he's being a more... less shouty arsehole. I don't know how else to put it.
Well, if you go back into his earlier days, he wasn't as shouty about things. He still had some notable character flaws, but he wasn't as animated about it.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, Drag showed his first ever video, and he was actually fairly reserved in that. But I just been watching him through his career, and he is just losing it big time. He is not that character in that first video anymore, and he is getting gradually. Well, we've seen it. He's ramped it right the way up over the last few weeks.
Apparently Fiona has... Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm so late. I've been dealing with horse problems. I tried to hurry up so I could get in here in time, and that's always when you find a horse with an injury.
Horsey.
Yeah.
Is the horsey okay?
It's going to be fine. It's just been an absolute tit in the field.
Okay.
It brought it on itself. I've got no... Well, I do have sympathy, but I don't. Anyway, here's what I'm going to say. Gary, the reason I took issue with what you said was, you said, I'm going to donate, and shame on you if you don't.
Yeah.
Right. You don't shame anybody into a voluntary donation, because that's not what voluntary means. Now, people can make their own ethical choices in life. So how do I come down on this one? We're all talking about G-Man having mentioned that he was looking for another job. Does anybody remember that before he said he was looking for another job, he said he was thinking about giving up his job and doing YouTube full time? Yep. Does anybody remember that?
Yeah. He said that 3 months ago, and he also said that just a couple of weeks ago.
Yes. Okay. He's also now said he's going to have a new job. He's got a new job already. So goodness knows what's going on. But here's the thing. He's in this position because of what he did.
Yep.
And I am not going to fund... He says he will be on YouTube more while he's not working. And while he is on YouTube, what is he going to be doing? We have got somebody, and I'm mentioning no names, who is now in such a state of fear that if a strange car stops in her street, she's panicking. I'm not funding that.
Yeah.
No way, no how. I am not going to fund that. He has got people scared. You want to fund that? You be my guest. And you can justify it to yourself in whichever way you want. That's your decision. But to say, if you don't donate, shame on you. No, that is moral blackmail. And I had actually been considering if he does do his fundraiser, will I contribute or will I not? And what you said made up my mind absolutely for me. So you can thank yourself for that one. You don't try and morally shame someone into contributing money to someone who puts up a hangout entitled Jade is Burning in Hell. My Facebook blew up with people who I don't know, who are real life friends of Jade. And they were contacting me absolutely distraught because they had inadvertently come across that hangout. You fund that if you want to. I choose not to on my ethical values. Now, you are looking at this from a different perspective, and more power to you. But what I will not say to you is, if you give money, shame on you. I wouldn't say that to you. Don't you dare say it to anybody else.
Here.
End of rant.
Okay.
Well said.
Okay. I don't know how much of the hangout you heard, Fiona. Because you did just say you just ran in from funding to your poor horses, and I do hope they're all right. But I did say that I don't like Mr. Moore for him doing that either, using my friend's death for views and subscriptions. I find disgusting. Let's not forget the amount of physical violence and harassment he's done to other people. So I don't like him. Let's put that out there for now. However, the thing is, he's unemployed and he's a person in need. Now, the thing is, I shouldn't have said what I said because, again, I've not had the amount of vitriolic interactions with him, let's say, that Hannah has, or Miz has, or Isabella has, or I don't know. I'm trying to think of other women he's threatened. I think he threatened you at one point, I think. But he's done numerous things that, again, I could understand that people do not want to give him a cent of their hard-earned money for. So I do apologise for saying that. But when I come to Hangout and see people laughing about the fact he can't afford to feed himself or to keep a roof on his head, I was beyond furious.
Actually laughed at that?
Bollocks.
Nobody has laughed at
I
that.
don't.
It was in the Hangout, Drugs Hangout. where
No
people say-
one has laughed at him for not being able to feed himself. They've laughed at him by saying, "Oh, he can't say that Drag's a bum anymore because now he's unemployed."
Yeah.
That's
what
what
people
they've
have been
laughed
laughing at is that he's the manufacturer of his own misfortune. And then he turns around and blames everyone else.
I mean, there probably is somebody
the reason it's
somewhere
funny is because
laughing
it's
at it.
insta karma.
Anyway, there aren't any starving Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah, there aren't.
Oh, good
By his
point.
own word.
Yeah,
Good
I mean,
point.
yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying, Fiona, like when I come across that, you know, it disgusts me on a human level. I think it's because I know people who've been homeless, unemployed, and it fucking sucks.
Firstly, the likelihood of him being homeless, well, he is unemployed at the moment, it is highly unlikely. He's not going to starve to death. From what I've heard, he has a sister who will take care of him to some degree.
He's living in his sister's attic at the moment.
Right. Not her basement, no. Sorry.
He perpetually couch surfs between relatives is what happens.
Right.
So like he has a very large family, and his family are very, they're a big-hearted group of people, and they will take him in, and they have been taking him in, and they just move him around the New Jersey area.
And whilst I don't approve of people directly laughing at him for being potentially, in inverted things, homeless and starving, even though it's not likely to happen, it's still nothing, and I mean nothing, compared to the things he has done.
Yeah. And also, can I point out that nowhere in that did I say anything about not donating because you don't like him. That doesn't deal with a single thing I said. It deals with something I specifically didn't say.
No. I mean, what I'm saying, Fiona, is that I'm saying that I should have said what I did because I understand why certain people don't want to. That's what I'm saying.
Right, Gary. There was one other thing I pointed out about the child incident to show you how much of an insane person G-Man is. Right, he's just released a video today on his main channel, on his G-Man channel, 5 minutes long, a snippet of video that actually shows you the whole event of the child lock-in. Right?
Yeah.
It actually shows him talking on the phone, him shooing the customers out, him putting the roller blinder down at the front of the shop, and then going back to carry on the conversation at the phone, and bingo, there's the little kid.
Yeah.
Oh, it's even worse than that because he tells the customers it's closed,
Yeah,
shoos them
that's right.
out, comes back, you see him on camera, he grabs the keys, goes away, you hear the security cage come down, and then while he's pulling it across, he yells at the phone, "So are you going to answer my question?" And a minute and a half later, a child comes up to him and asks him about the barrels. And G-Man, as opposed to like trying to find this child's guardian, goes, "Who are you here with?" And then just shoos them out of the store. Like, that's bad enough. That would be cause for him losing his job just on its face if it weren't for the fact of the other things that he's revealed today that his boss cited were reasons for him losing his job.
Where they? I've missed it.
Yeah. Well, he was leaving the phone off its hook so that no one could actually phone the store just to avoid the prank callers.
Oh, dear me.
Right. Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of business has been lost then.
Yeah.
But it's
Well, that was one of the reasons cited for his termination was that business was lost. The problem is, okay, what the Garys did, the Gary Ridgways, no one has condoned that. We all say it's a shitty thing to do. And yes, it's even beneath G-Man to do that shit. But he is in full responsibility and in full control of how he decided to handle that situation. And the way that he did it is incredibly idiotic, unethical, and just entirely self-serving. And it also, as a result of that, cost his employer business.
See, the thing is, they're renting. When I say they, the CCB are saying that Gary Ridgway calling the shop cost the business business. But on hearing that Gary was actually leaving the phone off the hook, that's just comical. That is what lost the business money. And the way I handle a crank call, well, if I get a crank call here, what do? Oh, if it's a heavy breather, I hand it over to the missus. If it's something else, I hang up the phone.
I keep a whistle, or I used to keep a whistle for anybody that called me like that.
Yeah, well,
and the last for the last, you know, these blinking calls where they try and get you to give out your computer information.
Oh.
I said to the guy, I'll need to put you on hold, and pulled up the YouTube video 1 hour of Badger and played that at them. He hung up after 25 minutes.
You see, whenever I get a phone call like that, I just look at the number that comes up and it's like, oh, it's from Ontario, or oh, this is from Iran or something. And I immediately know that it's a telemarketing scam.
Yeah. But when you get a
hello, if you would like to speak to a customer, please press 1.
Yeah,
and it's amazing how many times they actually will push a number.
But for prank calls like the ones he was getting, click is the answer. You just hang up.
Yeah.
And that's your line cleared.
I'd do that at home, never mind at work if it happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's fun to mess with the prank callers and prank them.
Yeah.
Instead.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
you
the
can't do
caliber
that
that
at
he was
work.
getting. Yeah.
You can't do that at work.
We do it at work.
And as far as I'm aware, from what I've heard today, the Garys were only phoning him at most once every hour and a half.
Yeah. So, I mean, the simplest way of handling it is to hang up.
Yeah, that's it. If you're at your work, you hang up.
If you can't work that one out, and I know, judging by that video that he released today, or that he didn't. Once Gary Ridgway, one of the Garys, rang up, he was there chatting with them for what, half hour? It wouldn't
9 minutes was the video. So.
Yeah, the video was 9 minutes.
Yeah, well, what the whole video, what the whole section? Because I've only seen the clip and told.
That's all I can go on.
So 9 minutes, but that's 9 minutes that you didn't need to waste.
Yeah. But I honestly think that this whole hangout is dealing with contributing to what would be his second fundraiser in under 8 weeks.
Oh, by the way, you do understand that this fundraiser is actually PayPal.
Yeah.
Send me money.
Yeah.
Which has no traceability, no thing that anyone can look up to see what he's got.
Well, his first fundraiser was effectively a scam because he was insisting that he had medical expenses and a medical condition which he doesn't have.
Yes.
Okay.
UTI.
Okay. But the point I was trying to raise, Tony, is that he's not Brett Keane. He's not somebody who's a scam artist.
I'm sorry, he's one step away from becoming another Brett Keane.
He's friends with Brett Keane. He believes and trusts in Brett Keane.
The only difference between him and Brett Keane is in their actual ability to convince people of a scam. Like, no one is convinced when G-Man or True Empiricism go out and manufacture some kind of fraud.
All right. But
Brett Keane was actually able to fool people.
Okay, so if Yoda, right? I mentioned why I'm so pissed off about it. And I'll explain to everyone else who's in the right. Somebody called my ex-employer at my ex-works, pretending to be a certain YouTuber. I'm not going to say him. I'll tell you private, if you want. Saying that, trying to get me fired from an old job. I was taken aside about it, saying, "Who is this person?" I said, "Oh, there's somebody that I interact with online, said that you're harassing them, blah, blah, blah." I said, "I've never harassed anybody in my life, blah, blah, blah." I said that this person's just, I said, "I've got loads of people tell you that I've never done anything like that. It's just, they just have a misunderstanding about what I'm actually trying to do for them."
I mean, I understand that, Gary. I understand that, but here's what I think you're missing. Because that's happened to you, and you were falsely accused, and you know what that is like. You're now going to just come down on the side of the employee, is what you're saying.
No.
Regardless of the fact that nobody was making any false accusations against them, and what got him fired wasn't tales that were told on him, but because of the way he handled it and lost his employer business. Put the phone off the hook. That is not the same thing. And on top of that, we also have this long history of him harassing people, and he has done so, of these absolutely foul tirades. Sabella was the victim of one of those, of people who are actually genuinely scared now because of this months-long rampage he's going on. And it's on that basis that I don't think this situation is comparable to the one you describe you going through. It's different. And I am not saying that anybody should or should not contribute to him. It's not my place to tell people what to do with their money. What I am telling you is what I would or wouldn't do with mine. Now, I've got other much more important expenses coming up.
Yeah.
Much more expense, much more important. That's where my pennies are going. And if I had to choose between the two of them, which is sort of the position I'm in, can you guess which one I'm going to choose?
Oh, I know which one you choose.
Right, because I am more interested in actually paying my respects in person than supplying funds to someone who did stupid shit that cost him his own job. You see, that I think I'm having to prioritize here. Now, I don't like the thought of anybody going hungry, but he ain't going hungry at the moment. And the other thing, and I'd like to mention here, and I'm sorry I'm going on for so long, is that you jumped into this and you opened your mouth and you inserted both your pedal extremities. And you didn't even know half of what had gone on. You didn't know about the kid getting locked in the shop. And you were giving us this argument of yours without knowing what had actually happened. And then when you were told about it, you decided that the best explanation is that in actual fact, it was more likely that when he went to the back of the shop, the kid just snuck in the front door. That was a more likely explanation. How likely an explanation is it that a kid floated through a locked door?
A locked door and a roll cage.
Yeah.
Okay, but
So what I'm saying is you jumped into this and made one of your arguments without even knowing what had happened.
okay, but this is my point though. Like, now again, again, I'm going to base this based upon the fact that I'm not a guardian, but I've been in charge of 2 below 10 children. Now, I can tell you from being in charge of those 2 below 10 children, they have zero interest in going to a B&Q, a Flaming Wicks or whatever. They're interested in the toy stores and the sweet shops and the Flaming ice cream stores. Now, I know that every children is different child, but I can't think of a single child I know who's interested in looking at Blue Barrels or looking at Flaming Painting or what is they sold at his store. That's the point I made. Like, what child would be sitting there alone?
Have you never spent any time with a child around the age of 5 or 7?
Yeah, I've got a 2-year-old.
Yeah, they ask random questions all the time.
Yeah.
And they wander off willy-nilly wherever you may be.
If it weren't, like, I spent a lot of time with my youngest nephew, and guess what? I now know what my 15th favorite food is because he keeps asking me, what's your next favorite food?
But here,
sorry, can I just quickly say, Gary? Sorry, can I just quickly say this though, Gary? Him not being as bad as Brett Keane is not a reason to excuse or fund him. I mean, fund him if you want to, but he's not as bad as Brett Keane. It's like saying Mussolini wasn't as bad as Hitler, so we should vote for Mussolini. I'm not comparing them to those people. I hasten to add.
It's a bit like saying, well, he's just a rapist and not a cannibal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but can also point out your argument defeats itself. What young kid's interested in a hardware store? Exactly. So chances are the kid isn't there on their own. He was with one of the adults that was shooed out of the store. You see, you say you're not a parent, and it's blindingly obvious because my son had a pet hate, and his pet hate was B&Q because he kept getting dragged there. So you would find this small child wandering around a shop that he didn't want to be in. And if we stopped to look at something and he got bored, he could wander off.
It literally takes just a second to
Yeah.
get your eyes off of them, and they're gone.
The most
Yes.
the most diligent of parents can lose a child in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
exactly.
Gary.
We actually have a brilliant way of coping with this in Canada, which is at most of our hardware stores and at most of our like massive bulk depots and stuff like that. We have arcade games which are free to play.
Yeah.
And so if you lose your child, you go and you look at the arcade game, and there they are standing in queue, waiting for their turn to play it.
Yeah. So, for all you know, the child's in there with a parent, and the parent's looking at one thing, and the child's going to look at something else. And then suddenly, woof, everybody's shooed out the front door, roll cage down, and door locked.
And the fact that someone's saying we're closed could be the parent looking for the kid.
On top of all this, the child being locked in the store is kind of superfluous, or it's just gravy on the whole thing.
Yeah, let's say
The fact of the matter is, he's been complaining that, you know, like, oh, people prank calling me has cost my job business. No, you closing the store, you leaving the phone unhooked, that's what's cost them revenue, that's what's cost them business. How you decide to respond to people harassing you.
Yes.
That's entirely belonging to G-Man.
Yeah, but I think my point about this was the fact that, Gary, you came into this, you didn't know the facts, you hadn't seen that video, but you damn well had an opinion on all of these things you weren't aware of.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's why I'm bringing up the kid. You knew nothing about it, but you had an opinion on something that you knew nothing about.
Yeah, I said this to him early on in Fiona. I basically said, you're drawing a conclusion about, you know, you've got three positions, three aspects, and one of them you're not in full, you know, knowledge of the facts behind it, but you're making a claim about something.
Okay, it's because I can't remember who it was off the top of my goddamn head. Had somebody else called their job. I think it might have been G-Man calling it Alex's job. I think I might be wrong about that. I remember like years ago, but that was wrong.
It was Richard Raspberry.
It was Richard Raspberry. All right, I do apologise. It was Richard Raspberry, but I think it's happened since where people have called people's jobs. You know, they've might find out through hook or crook where this person works and have harassed that person at work. Now I can't. Now the thing is, it was just like people that back then went mad at that person and like, you know, said if that person gets sacked, you're for it. It's like, well, doesn't the same apply here? It's like, well, you got himself sacked. It's just like, well, that's not how that works. Again, that's the problem I have, Fiona, is that like I don't see the sympathy that would go to somebody else in this community.
What do you not understand about? I do not condone those phone calls. What do you not understand about Cliff Jumper saying, I do not condone those?
The whole
phone
room
calls?
here, as far as I'm aware.
Exactly.
The people watching have all said, if I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Despite the fact that G-Man has brought real life into YouTube, both on his own end, as well as involving other individuals by trying to dox them and by trying to release their personal information, it doesn't matter. Two wrongs don't make it right, okay? Nobody should go about calling his job, involving his employer, and costing them revenue or whatever, or just harassing them. Most of us here have probably had our jobs phoned in the past. I have, and it was hilarious because it just takes me to say to my supervisor, you know, like, oh no, some fucker from the internet.
Yeah, Sabella was saying that her husband Bruce has had a few people calling up where he works.
Well, I've had people phone up my supervisor. I don't know how they got the number, but they were insisting that, you know, like, oh, this guy. At the time, they were saying, oh, he goes by the name of the doctor. He's been stealing from the till of work and everything. I work in a cubicle.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing, Gary. You've now switched this over to attempting to say that people haven't condemned this the way they've condemned it in the past. It's not true.
No, they have. Look,
then what's your point?
Look, my point is people find it funny.
Well, I do find it funny. Look, I will genuinely say I find it funny that G-Man responded the way he did, and he owns his entire actions, and as a result of that, he has to live with the consequences.
Exactly.
I find that absolutely fucking hilarious.
Maybe
And the reason
you
for
should
that is
ask-
it's instant karma.
Maybe you should ask people what it is they're finding funny before telling them that their reason for finding something funny
Yeah.
is wrong. That would be a good way to go about it. Don't say for a single minute that I laughed because he was getting these phone calls, because that's not true.
No,
Once again, you jump to conclusions.
No, I'm not saying you, Fiona, because you're a decent person. I'm saying that certain individuals.
The rest of us are cunts.
Yeah, could you?
I'm sorry, I can't believe I just
I
said
wanna
that.
be a child.
It's the equivalent of watching G-Man go and try and punch someone in the back of the head and trip and then hit himself in the balls. Like, that's what it is. That's what
Good
I'm laughing
analogy.
at.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I've got to put this in just to make Dee feel better. Dee, I would quite happily consider myself a cunt because I can't think of anything much more useful for the population of the earth.
And it's warm and welcoming.
And it's warm and welcoming, yes.
Anyway, quickly moving on.
I mean,
I can't consider myself like that because I'm not hung like a donut.
who,
Damn it, you swine! That was my. Oh, you swine! Yes, that was the joke.
Gary, who
That
has
was the joke I was referring to earlier. Sorry, Fiona.
Gary, who has found it funny that he got these calls?
Okay.
Who's actually said this is hilarious that he's getting these calls?
Okay, Cliff wanted to say something and then I'll respond.
Well, I mean, you know, it's Fion's making an important question. The self punching yourself in the balls type thing, Nicola was
Scenario.
referring to. Yeah, the instant karma kind of incident. There was one just yesterday for me. I was on my bike. I had to go to pick up some electricity, and light turns, goes to amber, turns to red. I stopped, and a van goes vroom, flying by, jumped the red light, and round the corner he stops at the petrol station, and so the cash machine where I've got to get the money to buy the electricity because I've got a prepayment meter. The guy's there. So I basically said, "Look, mate, you shouldn't go through red lights like that, you know." And he just started making excuses. Well, he just put his cash machine. He put his card in the cash machine, and I interrupted him to say that. And he got so distracted with me and making bullshit excuses. Oh, he couldn't stop because it was 1.6 seconds or something. So as long as it's less than 1.6 seconds between the light being red and him going through, that's fine. Basically, seemed to be his argument. Either way, you know, instant karma was that he spent so much time paying attention to me and not what he was doing, largely because I distracted him for his crime, actual crime, that the card swallowed his, the machine swallowed his card.
Yeah.
That was instant karma. And G-Man is exactly the same thing, you know. Effectively, you know, G-Man is the guy that went through the red light. I'm the one, you know, the atheist community has, you know, been the me confronting someone, and Gary Ridgway is the card
Machine.
that swallowed his card.
Yeah.
So sorry, so Fiona, your question was, who have I seen laughing at it? I'm not going to
Who
name
have you seen saying, "Isn't it hilarious that he's getting prank calls at work"?
Okay,
No.
why don't you just say it? Because if you're going to make an assertion that people are doing this, put your money where your mouth is. Say who it is, and then they can justify themselves.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think that's fair.
okay.
Good point.
I've seen. Well, it's not laughing at him getting the phone calls. It's laughing at him getting fired for how he dealt with the phone calls.
No, wait a minute. No.
Can
The
we put
reason I
goalposts
asked you that
back?
question is because you said that it was people laughing at him getting the phone calls.
No, I said it's people laughing at him being fired for how he.
That's
reacted
not
to-
what you said. You said it was people laughing at him getting the phone calls.
Yeah.
That's why I asked you that specific question. Show me who has been laughing because they think it's funny that he was getting the phone calls. That's what you claimed.
No, it isn't.
It is.
Can somebody spin back the hangout and we'll hear it? Because I asked you that question very specifically because of what you said.
Wait a minute.
Which I was referring to earlier. Sorry, Fiona.
Gary, who has found it funny that he got these calls?
You need to go back further.
This is hilarious that he's getting these calls.
Okay, Cliff wants to say something and then I'll respond.
Well, I mean,
you need to go back further.
Yeah. It's
instant karma.
Maybe you should ask people what it is they're finding funny before telling them that their reason for finding something funny is wrong. That would be a good way to go about it. Don't say for a single minute that I laughed because he was getting these phone calls, because that's not true.
No,
Once again, you jump to conclusions.
No, I'm not saying you, Fiona, because you're a decent person. I'm saying that certain individuals.
The rest of us are cunts.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't believe it.
It's the equivalent of watching G-Man go and try and punch someone in the back of the head and trip and then hit himself in the balls. Like, that's what it is. That's what I'm laughing at.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I've got to put this in.
I think it was just before that.
Yeah.
Just before where you started.
By hands, it's like, well, you got.
And one of them, you're not in full
consent, where people have called people.
Okay, that's it.
It's because I can't remember who it was off the top of my goddamn head. Had somebody else called their job. I think it might have been G-Man calling it Auntie's job. I think I might be wrong about that. I remember like years ago, but that was wrong.
So Richard Raspberry.
It was Richard Raspberry. All right, I do apologize. It was Richard Raspberry, but and I think it's happened since where people have called.
I think it's
people's jobs. You know, the mice find out through hook or crook where this person works, and have found out that they work. Now, I can't. Now the thing is, it's just like and people that back then went mad at that person and like so if that person gets sacked, you're for it. It's like, well, doesn't the same by hairs? That's like, well, you got yourself sacked. It's like, well, that's not how that works. Again, that's the problem I have, Fiona, is that like it's I don't see the sympathy that would go to somebody else in this community.
What do you not understand about? I do not condone those phone calls. What do you not understand about Cliff Jumper saying, I do not condone those
The whole
phone
room
calls?
here, as far as I'm aware.
Exactly.
The people watching have all said, if I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Despite the fact that G-Man has brought real life into YouTube, both on his own end, as well as involving other individuals by trying to dox them and by trying to release their personal information, it doesn't matter. Two wrongs don't make a right, okay? Nobody could go about calling his job, involving his employer, and costing them revenue or whatever, or just harassing them. Most of us here have probably had our jobs phoned in the past. I have, and it was hilarious. Because it just takes me to say to my supervisor, like, oh no, some fucker from the internet.
Yeah, Sabella was saying that her husband Bruce has had a few people calling up where he works.
Well, I've had people phone up my supervisor. I don't know how they got the number, but they were insisting that, like, this guy. At the time, they were saying, oh, he goes by the name of the doctor. He's been stealing from the till of work and everything. I work in a cubicle.
Yeah. Basically, that's the thing, Gary. You've now switched this over to attempting to say that people have condemned this the way they've condemned it in the past. It's not true.
They have. Look,
then what's your point?
My point is people find it funny.
Well, I do find it funny. Look, I will genuinely say I find it funny that G-Man responded the way he did, and he owns his entire actions, and as a result of that, he has to live with the consequences. Exactly. I find that absolutely fucking hilarious. The reason for that is it's instant karma.
Maybe you should ask people what it is they're finding funny before telling them that their reason for finding something funny is wrong. That would be a good way to go about it. Don't say for a single minute that I laughed because he was getting these phone calls, because that's not true.
No,
Once again, you jump to conclusions.
No, I'm not saying you, Fiona, because you're a decent person. I'm saying that certain individuals.
The rest of us are cunts.
You see,
Right.
I
There we
mean,
go.
we basically got the thread there, haven't we? You know,
So it was all
it's-
about the phone
we're
calls.
talking about. He's talked about. You know, Gary talked about people making the calls, and people have clarified that they don't agree with making the calls, but Gary's saying that people are laughing about it, laughing about the making of the calls.
I think there's a bit of confusion. I
So-
think Gary is saying that people are laughing about G-Man losing his job, but for some odd reason, which I can't fathom, is conflating that with making people laughing at the calls.
Exactly.
I mean, I think the problem you've got, Gary, and I've seen this with you so many times in the past, and I've dragged you into hangouts after a stupid phony beetle argument that's gone, 500, messaged on Skype group and things like that, where you've just gone over and over and over and over, and when it comes to a conclusion, you've conflated something or misphrased something, and people have gone off that because you're kind of shitty at communicating sometimes. Now, there's two choices here. You've either conflated something and screwed up with the communication, or you're saying what you're saying. Oh, big fly.
But yeah, I mean, basically the point is that whole conversation there was about the calls.
Yeah.
Not about him losing his job. So that is why I asked you to name the people who are laughing about him getting the calls. And that's when you switched it to laughing about losing his job.
Yeah.
And that's why we've had to play the whole thing back to show that the entire conversation was about the calls.
Yeah.
Now, do you accept that?
Yes.
Right. So start naming these people that have been laughing about the calls.
Dragnaut.
Dragnaut hasn't actually laughed about the calls. In fact, even today, Dragnaut said that he neither condones nor condemns.
Well, specifically, he condemned the act of ordering pizzas to the
Yes.
store.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is it costs the businesses money. It costs the delivery driver his wage because he paid, a flat rate plus tips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
And so
he wasn't.
it has nothing to do with G-Man, but you're unnecessarily involving other individuals in that circumstance that costs them money.
Yeah. So
And
Dragnaut,
that's why Dragnaut condemned those actions. Dragnaut said, you know what, if you're going to do this, I don't condemn or condone you fucking with G-Man. But if you're going to do it, at the very least, make sure you pay for it first.
Yeah.
and was Dragnaut not actually laughing at G-Man's response to the calls?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So he's laughing at G-Man's response to the call, and he's not laughing at the fact that G-Man got the calls, which is what I've asked you to name people for. So name me someone who is laughing because he got the calls. I'm waiting. It was your claim.
The claim was that people are laughing because of the way he dealt with the girls.
No!
No, it was not.
Just played it back, which confused me completely because I was AFK.
Yeah, that was,
But-
we've just played it back.
You
we are
were
talking about the calls.
You said
You
we
said
found it
people-
funny that he was getting crank calls to his
That
work.
was your claim. So name who found it funny that he was getting crank calls.
I mean, the only people I can think of that found it funny were the Gary Ridgways, and of course they were perpetuating it in the first place.
I don't even know if they found it funny, or if they were just doing it for
Oh, they found
their
it.
reason. I don't know. I'm not defending them. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I mean, the whole point
So
of trolling,
Okay,
I
fair enough.
decided to check out 4chan. Yes, they found it funny.
Yeah, I have to admit, when I first heard that he was getting crank calls, I did snigger. But the reason I sniggered is because in the past, Gary has actually said, I'm going to call up his company. And that's the reason why I found it funny, because I could see irony there.
Mm. Right.
So have we got any other names of people who found it really funny that he was getting these calls?
It sounds like it's just Dreadnought. You've
No. I wasn't
gone
saying
for Dreadnought. You've like,
But
I
even-
was doing this stuff and he's laughing about it, and
No.
you know.
It wasn't necessarily the cause themselves. It was his reaction to them.
Okay, but here's
That's what we've been telling you.
I mean, the thing is, you said laughing at the calls,
Yes.
and then you said there are people, and yet when it came to people, I mean, if I wanted to say people who, if I could probably chuck a list of 10 people who think G-Man getting fired is, G-Man's response to getting fired is funny. As in, it's funny because the guy's a fucking arsehole and he fucking well deserved it.
Well, he fucking deserved to get fired, and on top of that, he's actually better off not being with that employer.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want my honest opinion?
Well, hang on, Gary. I just want to finish off what I was saying, right?
Right.
So I could drum off quite quickly 10 people who thought that was funny, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But when you were asked how many, for people who, thought it was funny that it was getting crank calls, you provided one.
Uh-huh.
And it actually wasn't what he was doing anyway.
Yeah. So any others? Because that was the claim you made. Are you now wishing to retract your claim that people were laughing at the calls?
And
that he was getting calls?
And
Do
only
you want to retract that?
Let him answer.
Yeah, well, I just want to say, Gary, Fiona's asked you a question.
Mhm.
Being wrong is not a sin, even in Christianity. Retracting something and having to be humble with your ego is not a sin.
Right.
I
misspoke.
just gave you a bone. Please take it.
I said I misspoke.
Right, finally. So nobody was laughing about him getting these calls. Okay, that is one of the things that you found distasteful, you said.
No,
So-
people's reaction to it.
So
Apathy.
I think, let me see if I've got you right. What you mean is you are peed off that people were laughing at the way G-Man responded to said prank call. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, it was bloody funny. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
It was hilarious
Who the
because
hell
of just how
responds
stupid
like
it was.
yeah.
Who responds like that? Seriously.
Gary, you've heard us all say what we would do is we would just go, oh, prank call, hang up the phone.
Yeah.
That's not what G-Man did.
Instead, he ended up shutting down the business, shooting the customers out, shutting down the business, and inadvertently locking a kid in the shop.
That was just the culmination of everything, because prior to that, he was actively leaving the phone off the hook so that they couldn't get calls.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
I'm sorry,
everything
but-
that he does, like the thing that's funny about it is he thinks himself the victim and he's manufacturing his own misfortune. It was like, of course, if you leave the phone off the hook or you leave it on hold, you're going to lose revenue. That's your decision. What's funny about it is how he chose to handle it. And guess what?
yes.
How he decided to act is entirely his responsibility. No one else's. No one else is to blame for how he decided to respond to the Ridgeways apart from him.
Yeah, and what was funny about it was he couldn't have handled it in a worse way if he'd sat down and thought about it for a fortnight. And for that reason, that is what was funny. The way he handled the call in the worst possible way.
Thing that was funny was his reaction, not the cause.
Yeah.
No one is laughing about the consequence. No one is laughing about the people perpetuating, like the prank phone calls to his work. They're laughing at how he decided to go about handling it which resulted in him losing his job. Okay. Everything about this is entirely his own fault.
Okay, but the problem that I have with that, Nicola, and maybe this is just me, Fiona, maybe you remember this particular thing happening. Wasn't there, I'm going to say about 3 or 4 years ago, a thing where some Australian people phoned up a hospital and a person ended up committing suicide?
I have no idea.
What?
There was a thing when Joe Kate Middleton, who is
So you bring up an example that is qualitatively dissimilar to the thing that we're actually dealing with.
It's a frank phone call made by some people. The thing is that Mr. Gary Moore, sorry, I shouldn't maybe say, sorry, G-Man, has expressed that he has emotional issues.
No,
he didn't actually say that.
What he expressed in the past was that he says, "Oh, I was diagnosed with, like explosive emotional disturbances." That isn't a medical term; it's a legal term. If you show up in court, your defense attorney will say, "Oh no, he just has, this person is a shit human being. He doesn't know how to handle confrontational situations." That is a legal defense. It has nothing to do with medical diagnosis. He has no properly, formally diagnosed medical conditions.
And if you want to talk about, people being harassed and it leading to suicide, you are aware, are you not, that one of the things the coroner was investigating was if Jade's death was natural or if it was a suicide?
I was aware of that.
Right. So don't bring that up. Just don't.
No, I'll just bring it up because G-Man has problems, and we'll put it in that a general emotional issues. He definitely has some hyperactive issues from the way he behaves.
We all know that G-Man isn't a normal human being.
And the thing is, we all have issues. How many people have been so far falsely accused of adultery? How many people are currently living in fear at the moment because of what he's done? So don't give me that.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. I've got Asperger's. What goes through my head falls out of my mouth generally. How many people have I threatened? How many people, have I, threatened to dog drop? How many people... How many people have I, insulted about their infertility, etc., etc., etc.? I don't go doing these things. Is that an excuse for someone else that does?
G-Man actively seeks out some kind of means by which he can, attack somebody or offend them. He's threatened in the past in a couple of hangouts on Atheist Ranger's channel where he showed up. That he would come round and steal my woman from me.
And I'm sorry, if you have serious impulse issues, get off the internet now for your own good.
That's basically what this culminates to, is that G-Man is the kind of personality that should not be on YouTube.
Yeah, but can we get back to the actual point here? Because as somebody pointed out in the live chat, they think this hangout is about G-Man baiting, and it's not. This is about dealing with certain charges laid against people by Gary here. And we're dealing with them.
Because Gary's pissed off.
I also think Fabio makes a good point. To be fair, he invented the sport, wrote the rules, and encouraged people to play.
Yeah.
It's because Fiona, Gary's pissed off.
Right, okay.
Because this community used to be about positivity.
Still is.
It just seems to have slipped recently.
Recently?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, see, when you get comments like, and if you don't donate to him, shame on you, then, yeah, it tends to slip a bit.
No, I'm not saying about me. I'm saying about just in general.
Here's the thing. Okay.
I'd say I'd be guilty of flaming contributing to that.
Hang on. Before I joined, and Hangouts was a thing, Pwneship videos were the standard way of having discussions on this Great Debate community stuff. But the idea that it was all friendly, bit of a stretch. Now, there are people within different parts of the community that are friendly. You know, that the people with, like, you know, Steve McRae's Great Debate community thing, G+ group, and maybe us in this part, and the people that are in, you know, the Skype group we're part of, and the people that are on TST, and the people that are on Ronnie, you know, the Clown Car Posse, their group, and things like that. There are cliques within the community that are positive and friendly, you know, but there are other parts that really don't get on.
But this...
It's still a diversion, though, isn't it? It's a diversion from the point of this discussion. You seem to be, again, you're digging your heels in here. And, so, you know, yeah, but is effectively, you know, every time someone brings something to you, it's, yeah, but. And that's what you seem to be doing all the way.
Because, Cliff, here's the point that I think you guys aren't getting, or I'm failing to get across. It is that I don't think anybody in this community is to blame for him getting fired. He has contributed in some way, maybe small, maybe big, I don't know, to his own demise. Okay? Because we're all responsible for our own behaviour. How we handle things. Now, it's obvious to me that, again, because as Nicola was saying, he got a phone call at his work. Do you know what he did? Click. Bruce got the same thing. Do you know what he did? Click. Do you know what I did? I told them the truth. Nothing happened after that. Again, the thing is that but the people know that G-Man doesn't handle things the way that we do. That's what has annoyed me.
Okay, so how's it my fault that how G-Man's reacting?
G-Man is fully capable of taking a pause, taking a breath, and evaluating the circumstances in. That he chooses not to do that is his own downfall.
Yeah.
How is it Fiona's fault that how G-Man's reacting? How is it Dragnaught's fault how G-Man is reacting? G-Man is his own keeper, as the phrase goes.
Okay. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault how he's reacting, because he's done stuff that I totally think is scummy. Like 4911, for example.
Sorry, that was nothing to do with you.
Can I say something real quick? People should not be calling G-Man at his work, not because he reacts poorly, but just because it's not a good thing to do.
Exactly. Well, we've all said that. We've all said that.
We've all said that. There's a basic rule of thumb that you keep internet shit separate from real life shit.
Yeah.
That G-Man typically involves and like conflates the two together doesn't excuse anyone else from stepping over that balance.
Sorry, I've just been apparently, Phoney, you've been asked this from Fabio. I'll give you the phone number of my employer, and I authorise you to do everything which was done to G-Man, even the alleged and unconfirmed things, to see if it gets me fired. It won't. That last sentence was mine.
Yeah. So anyway, I've said as much as I really want to say on this topic.
Yeah.
I just think that next time you decide to jump in, Gary, check your facts first.
Yeah.
Well, make sure that you've got all the facts.
Yeah. Before you try and shame people. Because not a good look.
No, again, I mean, what you've done is turn it into a phony beetle argument. The only difference here is that instead of being a G+ thread that goes on for days, this has gone on for a couple of hours now, I think.
Yeah.
But I have to ask you, Gary, do you really think phoning somebody's workplace will get them sacked?
Do I think it will get them sacked?
I mean, don't get me wrong. Neither me nor Fabio are condoning calling people's workplace. But do you actually think calling somebody's employer is going to result in the instant dismissal?
It depends what that employment is.
Okay, can you?
Okay, we'll specify further. I work for the Canadian government, and I've had people crank call.
Can Phoney hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Like, do you think that I should be dismissed immediately as a result of someone crank calling?
Okay, just Holy's come and joined, and she's obviously got something to say, and she's on a device at the beach or something.
I'm at the beach. So like, can you hear me? Because I know
Yes.
that my phone's really loopy.
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Phoney, a couple things. One is in the United States, if you lose your job, almost always the employer makes it so that you can still have. It's very rare when they screw you over and you can't collect unemployment. So if he's worked legally, he's paid into unemployment and he can collect that. And guess what?
Which he hasn't.
Listen to me. Gary makes so little money that Gary, the idiot from New Jersey, will make more money from unemployment than he will at his crappy job. Trust me, I've been on unemployment. I know what it's like. You will make more than that shitty job he works. Don't feel sorry for him. And if you want someone to pay his bills, you tell Veckel to pay his bills. We approached Veckel and we asked him to reel him in, and Veckel scoffed and laughed and said, "I don't see it." Spoke and said, "I don't care. I don't care." No, let them play. Let them pay his bills. Why are you being a bleeding heart for somebody that has threatened to knock on my door and hit me with a belt? Why are you a bleeding heart for somebody that's threatened Hannah to dox her information all over New York City and knock on her door? Why are you defending somebody that will knock on Miss Starr's door and scare her and threaten her family over the phone? Get real. Grow up. Goodbye.
I think that says it all, really, Gary.
Yeah.
He deserves everything that's come to him and then more.
It's called Schadenfreude.
Yeah, there's nothing much I can say against that.
Schadenfreude.
Because that's
delight in the misery of others.
Let Gary speak.
Can I just say something, Fiona? The fact he said and did is fucking disgusting. I do not want anyone to think I am.
Okay, Gary, just stop a second. You dropped your mic or moved your mic or something. You're kind of quiet, but your mic bounced a lot in the middle of what you were saying. Do you want to say that again?
I'm upset. Sorry, it's if I'm upset, that's the thing. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because what Holy Speckle said, really upset me. Because look, I'm disgusted with that fact that he's threatened violence against anybody for any reason whatsoever. That is repulsive. Let me just say that for the record, that's repulsive. And I do not condone that whatsoever. And I don't think anything I've said here has condoned that whatsoever, by the way. I think it's disgusting. I think it's grotesque. I think it's, every word, bad word you can throw at me.
We get the point.
Okay. But the point is that, the point I've been trying to raise is, this community is a very good one, and we tend to help those in need. And even Fiona herself said in that hangout, and actually it's something that I actually agreed with you, Fiona, is that we usually are, but he's burned us too much, and I'm like, okay, maybe she's got a point there. Yeah,
well, we help those in need, provided that the need isn't the cause of their own misfortune. G-Man, everything that G-Man has done is a result of his own actions. Everything is his fault. There's no way you can pin this on anyone else.
No.
You can sit there and say, yes, the Ridgeways were calling his work. Well, tough shit. People have called my work. And guess what? I still have a fucking job. The reason is because I didn't shut down the fucking front doors to my office just so I can yell at somebody who is crank calling me. That's entirely owned by him. Mm-hmm. Everything he's done and every consequence of that is owned by him. When we do a fundraiser for someone, it's because of some, like unanticipated factor, like something that was unmitigated, like red line hitting 4 pigs on the highway.
Three little pigs.
3 little pigs on the highway. There we go.
Hey, Fabs.
God, Wolf apparently got a fucking car. But or somebody needing dental work that was unexpected, or somebody, like finding themselves in the hospital because they have an incredibly, virulent infection. Those are the fundraisers that we give money to. We don't give it to people who decided that, I'm going to be a colossal ass to everybody. And when they turn around and say that, hey, you're being incredibly obtuse and incredibly unsociable to people, just ask, oh, what's the basis for your morality? Yeah. Fuck that person. They can die in a gutter for all I care.
And you know something? A few years ago, I did a fundraiser to raise some money for Shani. The computer had broke, and it's like, at the time, it was a bit of a hard sell because Shani is, quite flighty, shall we say, to say the least. Now, she was okay at the time, and I thought I'd try and give her some love, and maybe that would help, soften her down, that kind of thing. And it kind of backfired, but I actually still don't really have any regrets about it as such. My motivation at the time was positive. But what would be the motivation for me to help someone who's trying to damage themselves,
And damage everybody else as well. Going out of their way to hurt them.
Oh, Isabella. Sorry.
Fiona, I'm sorry that everybody was upset. Look, it's just because, again, I've been unemployed, or not too distant past, and it sucked. It really sucked. And, it was my own fault that I was there, but it still fucking sucked. And it took the generosity of others for me to get on my feet, and, the fact that I've been doing my current job more or less in my old job is that I just got lucky that I managed to find the job that I did, and I'm very lucky to have the job I currently do. So trust me, if I tell you that if someone fucks with my job at the moment, it would be I'd be really upset because I looked into it. It isn't based upon any skill I have or any sort of ins I have with anybody. It's based upon what I've done myself. The thing is that I understand that G-Man is an unskilled worker, and getting a job like that in New Jersey is difficult. That's all my anger and upsetness is directed towards, is that people don't seem to not sympathize, but empathize with that. You can't sympathize, but empathize with that. Maybe this is something I'm missing.
My ability to empathize with someone is in proportion to how they conduct themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me one single reason why I should sympathize with him.
Because you're an idiot.
No, because you're a fellow human being.
So that was a reason,
no,
a judgment on your character, I hasten to add.
Well, no. I mean, I asked for a reason. They said because he's a fellow human being. Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that applies to
Brett Keane.
Everybody.
Yeah, Brett Keane is a good example. You had a fairly strong argument for wouldn't give money to Brett Keane.
I was going for Idi Amin, but you guys picked Brett Keane.
Yeah.
So I should be sympathetic to Idi Amin too.
Ayatollah Khamenei.
Yeah. Slobodan Milosevic.
Do you want to give me another reason why I should sympathize for him? Because that one, I don't think it's working. Because I do. I mean, I'm seriously asking. Given the fact that you said those things, I mean, I'm here to listen to you. Give me another good reason why I should sympathize with that guy.
Okay, because he was an unskilled worker in a pretty shit part of America, from what I understand. I mean, New Jersey's not the best. Right, D. I'm sorry. Is New Jersey one of the shittest parts of America? It's like that. I think.
I was saying it. I thought there are millions of unskilled workers across the world.
Here's one.
I mean, I'm okay. I mean, I can be sympathetic to that. That doesn't mean I got to be willing to give him money or say just, you know what? Yeah, tough shit. He lost his job. Why did he lose his job, by the way?
His story keeps on changing, so I don't know too much with Fabio.
No, not what's his story. Why he lost his job because of he's probably incompetent.
Because he was costing his business money, apparently.
Because he was what? Sorry.
Costing his business money.
So it's not really. I mean, it's really his fault then, right?
It is his fault.
No, when you're leaving the phone off the hook and shutting the shop halfway through the working day, I would say that is your fault.
Well, I mean,
that's what he did say.
If he was costing his business money, that was his fault.
Yes.
Okay, so he got fired because it was his fault.
Just to be clear, it's not really that clear what exactly the reasons were that he was fired, but there are a number of speculations, and he claims that it was because of prank phone calls.
Nobody gets fired because of prank phone calls.
No.
Okay, Jackie, I will tell you the same thing that they told Gary yesterday, and Dee just repeated. I'm giving away to anybody which wants the phone number of my boss. I will do it privately. Everybody which asks this, I will give it to them. And I will authorize them in writing, if they want, to do everything which has been done to Gary Moore. Even the alleged things, like, the flowers and the construction thing, which never happened, by the way. But, you can do that too. See if it gets me fired. And then, when it doesn't, ask yourself why I got fired.
Can I just check, Fabio? Does your boss actually speak English?
Oh, I mean, I can't. No. I can't make it easier or fake for you. So he will probably reply to you in Italian. Yeah. Sure.
Fair enough.
But I'm willing to do that. I'm saying that publicly. Everybody which asks me, I will give him the phone number of my boss, and I will authorize them in writing to do the same things, and see if any single one of you can get me fired with those things.
Fabio, are there any decent pizza manufacturers around your area which you don't want to be banned from?
Well, there is one, but they don't do delivery, so fuck it.
Okay, but I mean, I understand where Fabio's coming from. I understand where everyone else is coming from.
Do you know?
Yes, I do. I really do. Because look, G-Man is a scumbag. I understand that. I really do. I just no. I understand that it was his own stupidity that got him fired.
No, listen, Gary. I want to extend an olive branch. I will tell you, I will say that calling his place of job was a dick move. I will say that. That was a dick move. A very dick move. And I'm not going into the fact that, the guy started the old escalation before. I would not go into that because it would be really easy doing that. But that's a dick move. You can't imply that the phone calls were the reason why he got fired. Was that a dick move? Yes. Was that the reason? No. So I will not stand here while you try to force me some kind of feeling bad for a guy which is a moron. He started this whole war and it blew in his face. There is a saying, I think it says, talk shit, get hit. That's exactly what happened to him. So, no, I'm not sympathetic to the guy. He started that. And remember, the worst thing you can do is start a war knowing that you cannot win it. You only start shit if you are more than positive that you win. You start that shit, it blows in your face, tough shit.
And let's just think about what can he do for the future. Well, what he could do is a couple of choices. Number one is stop being a dick on the internet. Well, we know he can't do that. But what he could do is not make videos from work. He could, even if he can make videos from work, not walk outside the workplace knowing that he's got enemies that will screw him over because he is a dick. You know, because they don't like him. Even if he doesn't accept that he's a dick, he does certainly know that there are people that don't like him, and have the have the audacity to screw him over. So knowing that it is on his head, it is on he is his own keeper as to whether this happens to him again.
Mm-hmm. To be perfectly honest, I saw him in G-Man in a hangout earlier on today. I think it was from yesterday. But he did actually say when he gets a new job, he will not be walking outside the company to actually show off the name of the company that he works for. Mm-hmm. So he may have learned something from this.
Yeah.
Thing. But in saying that, how many times has he said, "Oh, I promise I won't do that," only to do it again?
Also, the thing he'll have learned is not that you shouldn't be an idiot and dox yourself. What he's learned is atheists are untrustworthy.
Yeah.
Okay.
He does need to learn from this.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd just like to say something, right? When I brought up Dreadnought's name, I shouldn't have, because the thing is, I understand why Dreadnought doesn't feel a slick of sympathy for him, considering what a chode he's been to Dreadnought. So, sorry, Dreadnought, if you're watching this video. I think you're a decent guy, and I think you just got to be pushed by that complete and total idiot. They just so I'm balanced on this.
Oh, yeah, because G-Man had said that it was now open season on Mrs. Drag and Little Drag.
Yeah, fuck that noise.
No Dragnought's child.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I said to Fiona, like, I do not condone any of G-Man's behaviour towards Dreadnought, his wife, any that bullshit. Fuck that. Or him calling 911, or him doing stuff that he's done recently. I think it's inappropriate behaviour of the worst kind. I think the problem here is maybe a difference of personal philosophies. Is that I have a problem with people finding delight in something like this. When maybe there's a lesson that can be learned here for everybody.
Yeah, the lesson is stop doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know something, Gary? I'd like to point out that you've just spent the last couple of hours having your feet held to the fire because you made a post without knowing the facts, without accusing people of things, and now you're reaping what you sowed out of that. Mm-hmm. So you have the ability to avoid that as well. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Do you understand? I mean, I just want, and actually, I want to chuck something else out there. So, kind of almost a resolution kind of time now. Okay, so let's look at the original post again. So we got the first part here. Okay, everyone deserves a job. Okay, so given what Jackie was saying earlier and other people, do you think that one can be retracted?
No.
You'd think everybody has a right to a job.
Wait.
If you watch FDR's second Bill of Rights, yes, they do. But unfortunately, that wasn't instated. So under the current rules, no, they don't.
Okay, so
do you personally, regardless of the law, believe that everyone has the right to a job?
Yes, I do believe everyone has a right to a job. Because that's how you get rid of rid of mass unemployment and you get a better system, because then everyone's paying into taxes, which pays for everything that we use.
Okay, I will give you communism that demonstrates that that's not true. Everybody was given a job, and it destroyed the system. You know, you had soldiers guarding, policemen guarding traffic lights.
If I could just read out, sorry, what 8-Bit wrote in the live chat.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hang on, I'll just scroll down instead of up.
Just real quick.
Yep.
Whether or not someone has the right to a job, like maybe that is a different discussion, but I really, really disagree with that. And maybe this might be a semantics thing, but what I would describe as a right is a thing that people are entitled to, like food, like water, like housing, like your basic necessities. Things like driving, things like having a job are privileges. And I do think that I wouldn't call it a right, but I think that the government should support programs that allow people to gain opportunities, whether that be a job or some sort of way to a job, like education or access to job boards and stuff like that. But no one has the right to a job. Like no employer is forced to hire people.
And also, they also, you know, the employer has the right to fire someone because they've got a shitty employee.
Yeah, nobody has a right to just keep a job regardless. So can I just read out what 8-Bit wrote? I think what we're all forgetting that G-Man has a martyr fetish. He thinks that being hated proves the Bible and somehow proves he's right. It's sad.
Yeah. And also, can I say that everyone has a right to a job? I think, Gary, what you mean is everyone should have a right to a job. But they don't actually have that right at the moment. Is that what you meant to say? Correct. Right. So everyone should have the right to a job. Right. So there we go.
See, this is why. Okay, Gary. We've had this discussion before, and I don't think you're picking up on it enough. I think. Do you remember how in Skype you've just slapped your hand down and typed stuff up, and it makes no sense because it's just poorly typed in your haste to get an idea from your head out there? Okay, you have done the same here in this post. You basically had an idea, you pumped it out there, you've mispronounced it about a little bit, but effectively you've missed a word out there, and that word made a different context. Fiona just explained. Should have a right to a job changes the context of what you say. And so when I read something, I've explained this to you before, that when it comes to language, when it comes to communication, okay, I've got an idea in my head and I'm trying to get that idea into your head. I'm not telepathic. I can't beam it to you. I have only body language and verbal and, and maybe text, whatever. I've got forms of communication at my, in order to do it. Not everybody has the best ability to do it. That someone who hasn't got any hands isn't going to be able to type something out. Stephen Hawking, when he was alive, he wasn't able to say things, so he had a machine do it for him. And you find ways of overcoming this situation. Now, you effectively have a disability in that regard. I don't mean, I don't mean disability as in, you have an actual disability. I mean, you have, not a disability, an inability. That generally you're kind of okay, but you're in so much of a haste to get an idea from your head out there that you don't anticipate whether I am going to get the message that you're trying to transmit. And so what happens is when people start confronting you and say, no, Gary, you're wrong. No, Gary, you're wrong. And pretty much every single person in this, discussion and in the side chat are saying, Gary, you're wrong. And I've said this to you before. When you've got everybody saying that, maybe it's a big hint that you're wrong or you're not communicating it properly. So this discussion today is another kick in your backside to say, Gary, you need to be more precise when you're trying to explain the idea in your head to get it to ours. Maybe type it out on a draft or something, on Word or whatever, okay? And then go to bed and read it the next day and think, oh, I didn't really put that as well as I should. And you tweak it and then you go, and then you've got it right. And then it's something. And then if people still can't, get problems, maybe you look at it again and you think, okay, well, maybe I should redress that.
Maybe run it by someone first.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And I think the difficulty is that you do this so frequently that you have a reputation for it, which means that when you post something, people jump on you. And G-Man's exactly the same in this regard. He lies so frequently, or true empiricism. He screws up the science stuff so frequently that when he says anything, people will jump on him for it, and occasionally he gets it right. At which point he can then be vitriolic and say, "Well, I got it right and they got it wrong." So this is a lesson in you need to communicate better.
Yeah. So is that is that point number one dealt with? Well, sorry.
Yes, point number one.
Point number one is dealt with, right? Okay. What was the next one?
So let me screen share it for you.
So can I just ask Gary?
Yeah.
If you ran a company, would you employ Brett Keane?
Right. Let's have a look at this point.
I actually did.
I can't read it with pink.
Okay.
Sorry, but Midnight Sparkle wants to say something for Midnight.
Like, I actually did I have a question. Is it a language gap for you, or is it just that you do what Cliff says and just, or is it both? Like, because I was trying to see whether
it's hard to explain. It's more of like I have a hard time explaining what I mean to people.
Oh, believe me, I have the same issues a lot of the time. So,
okay, Gary, I've told you. I think I've told you about this before. So when I was, I used to run a war games club, and I would basically play games with kids, and there were some adults as well, but the kids liked playing me because I taught them how to play the game better. I had experience. And what I would do is I would make a move, and they would make a move, and then I would overcome them. And I'd say, okay, what you did wrong there was this, because people learn better from their mistakes than they do from their successes. And I would basically increase their game. I would raise their game. But there was one kid who I lost my temper with, not in a sort of, you fucking idiot, shouted at him. I was stern with him in much the same way I've been stern with you. And what happened was you get a rule book, the main rule book for the rules for the game, and then you get a little rule book that goes with the army. And he has ADHD. And as a result, he hadn't read his codex. He hadn't read his army rule book. So what would happen is he tended to lose all the time because he didn't know the rules for his army. And the other kids that he played with, well, they were egotistical and they wanted to win. So they wouldn't tell him. I would. And so I told him one day, and he went, I said, you need to read your codex. And he went, oh, I've got ADHD. And I said, never let a disability stop you from trying. I've got Asperger's. I have some issues. So I have to say, okay, here's a deficiency that I have. How can I find a way to climb over that wall? How can I deal with these kinds of situations? I need to find a coping strategy. So if you need to figure out a way to find a coping strategy. You've got a communication problem. You've got a problem with getting yourself understood. So you need to find a way to say, okay, I need to make myself understood. How can I best achieve this goal?
Never let a disability define you.
Okay.
Don't use it as an excuse. I'm saying, you know, I've got a problem. Okay, fine. You've got a problem. Deal with it. Find a way to deal with it.
All right.
Don't,
So yeah.
don't
So
let it hold you back.
So point number 2 will be all right.
Okay, so back to the 3 points. Okay, so locked in a store. You didn't have the story right. That's basically that one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've still not watched the video. It's on my favourites. I'm going to give it a watch after this.
Okay, so let's create a hypothetical situation here, or a pair of situations. Number 1 is you were right. Number 2 is you didn't have the facts right, and you've gone off a misperception.
Correct.
Okay, so let's pretend for a moment that that you being right wasn't the correct one, and that the one that is correct is that you've misunderstood it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you didn't have all the facts to hand, and you've made a mistake. So, using that as the hypothetical situation at the moment, let's pretend for a moment that that is the true one. Do you think you can let go of number 2?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
All you have to do is maybe if later on you just stick under the comments, I've had a look, number 2's disappeared. There you go. It's not a sin to be wrong. It's not a sin to make a mistake. Don't worry about it. We all do these things. You do it with a slightly higher
intensity. It'll probably revise when I've actually watched the video and come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate to say this. I hate to point this out, but maybe before voicing an opinion on the incident, you should have watched the video.
Or ask people, where can I find this video?
I believe he did ask that actually, and got quite a sarcastic response from somebody, but I can't remember who.
Me.
Oh, it was you.
Was that after the post?
Yes.
Yeah, it's quite a long way through the thread, I think.
That's what I'm saying.
I actually told him not to do a G-Man on me and to do his own homework.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's just what I'm saying. You know, you should have dealt with it. You watched the video before forming an opinion on the events shown in the video.
Yeah, I mean, basically.
Yeah, because you could have asked people in the Skype group.
Yeah, you know, effectively what it is, you know, don't get involved in something you don't know all the facts about yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't run at the mouth before you know what the hell you're talking about. You know, and yeah, this is a lesson in swallowing your pride here. Yeah. Anyway, so like I say, provisionally, let's pretend number 2 is wrong. Okay, provision. Okay, so number 3, people laughing at his plight, losing a job sucks. I'm sure we've done it, and we should not mock it as it's not pleasant. So how about number 3?
I think, you know, that you said yourself you've never lost a job. I'm sure people here have either lost a job through the business shutting down or through, you know, voluntary redundancy or through whatever.
Yeah, but that's different to this, isn't it?
No, it still sucks to lose that job.
Yeah, but no. Listen. G-Man's plight is one of his own making, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so laughing at his plight due to himself being the downfall of it, I don't think it, you know, basically laughing at the idiot who caused himself his own problems, I don't think there's a huge amount of problem with that. I mean, effectively, you know, it's self-pwnship, and we laugh at self-pwnship. So why is it G-Man self-pwnship is bad, and yet other people's self-pwnship is okay?
Because this has had real-life consequences.
Other people have had real-life consequences. You know, the person... I'll give you an example, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Someone goes to an airport, and when the lady at the check-in says, have you got any, you know, anything in your bag? And someone says, well, there is a bomb. And and then the police come and arrest them and check their bags and causes all sorts of problems, and they have to shut the airport down, and then they end up in court, and then they say, well, I was only joking. Whose fault is it? That's self-ownership. We can laugh at the stupid idiot that caused their own they caused their own problems. Maybe they lost their job because of it. Like I say, we can laugh at that. What's wrong? Where's the difference?
The difference is that he's now got to struggle with a life situation he shouldn't have to struggle with.
What? Hang on.
Why shouldn't he have?
Why shouldn't he?
Yeah.
Why shouldn't he? He cost his employer money. He lost his job. Why should he have been kept on if it was costing his employer money?
Can I just say one thing? I partially agree with the third point that Gary wrote. I don't think the laughing about this is in any way helps the situation. I mean, the guy is a fucking moron. He played the game. He couldn't win. He couldn't even play that. He got burned. Laughing doesn't help the situation. I mean, you don't care. I get it. But I mean, laughing, it is a little bit too much. I think at least, okay, let's put it this way. I don't think that all of the people that laughed at the situation had a good reason to do that. Some of them did. And for some of them, I understand the reaction. But not all of them.
Agreed.
And in general, I don't think it helps to diffuse the situation in any way, shape, or form, or just to tone it down a little bit.
Yeah, let me put it this way, Fabio, building upon what you say. If, let's say, for example, what's happened here had a positive effect on the way that G-Man interacted with the community, or dealt with people, let's say, dealt with Dreadnought, or dealt with Hannah, or dealt with any of the people he's had certain problems with. Do what I do? I say, do what? It was a blessing in disguise. It actually had a positive outlook on his temperament, on his behavior, because maybe he's learned to say, do what? I need to take responsibility for my behavior going forward. And if that happened,
go on, Gary.
I'm saying that would be a positive thing, and then I would say, do what? And while I might have agreed with it, do what? It had a positive effect, and do what? It turned this guy's life around because he was acting one way, and then maybe reality hit that what I'm doing online is not only affecting me; it's affecting my job, my whatever. It needs to stop. It needs to stop either one way or the other. Either I need to get off the internet, or I need to stop the way I'm interacting with it. And if it had that effect, I'd be going, do you know what? I may disagree with it, but do you know what? He's become a better person because of it. And do you know what? I'd be happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he's going to.
No. Judging by the hangout I watched, if anything, Gary is now ready to ramp it up to the next level.
Yes.
And it also depends on the personal situation. If I were Dreadnought, I would laugh my ass off all the way to New Jersey, go there with a flag and put it on in front of the shop with a flag saying, I won, fuck you. Okay? I will do that. I don't think that everybody which seriously laughed at it had very good reason to do that. But some of them did, and I will not point my finger at them because some people have been on the receiving end of a barrage of stupidity and meanness, which begs belief. So, I mean, you get it by a huge truckload of horse shit. I'm laughing my ass off. I'm sorry.
Okay, Cliff, I'd like to remove number 3.
Okay.
Because there are people out there, as Fabio named, who've got Holy Spackle said before, who've got a cavalcade of shit from him. So therefore, I want to redeem that because they have the right to laugh and also the right not to donate. So I want to remove that as well.
Okay, so effectively, with the provisional part of number 2, you've effectively capitulated on your whole argument, pretty much.
Apart from number 1, yeah.
No, number.
What? No,
number
what?
2.
Number 1 was the job one. Number 2 was the child in the store one.
I'm going to reformulate number 1.
Why? You missed out a word which totally changed the context.
Yeah, that was it. Everyone should have a right to a job. We're kind of agreed with you on that.
Yeah.
As Heathen says, not a right to a job, but the opportunity to work.
Yeah. So, you were fine with that. We were fine with that. That seems...
I'll say that you don't have a right to a job.
Yeah.
Oh, I've met people that if I run a business, there's no way on earth I would employ them.
Okay, there's a bit of a problem with that, which is say that, oh, you have a right to a job. It's a bit like saying, we have a right to property. That doesn't mean I have the right to own a house.
It's like Peter Jordan saying, I have a right not to be single.
There is a bit of a misunderstanding when we say right to a job. There is a lot of constitutions which have the right to have a job in their constitution. But the way it is formulated is that it says, for example, some countries say, that every citizen has got the right to a job, and the society will put in place the necessary means, so that thing could be fulfilled. And that's because, in some democracies, in some constitutions, the job is seen as something which fulfills the person.
Yeah.
At that point, the job is a substantive right, not a formal.
Yeah,
right.
no, right. But no, that's why I said, there might be, I can understand the misunderstanding. It's not like the right to do something, to have something. This is my own. I got it. It's the right to make whatever the fuck I want. It's a little bit different.
At that point, though, once you consider it like the right to a job as being a substantive, when you think of it as a substantive right, and where everybody, should have some kind of employment, it doesn't matter what kind of employment it is. At that point, it stops being a right and it begins as an obligation.
Well, no. There is another point, Nicola. I'm sorry to interrupt you because, again, this is quite common.
You're French. I totally get it.
Yeah. And by the way, fuck you. But yeah, you've been waiting way too much to make that joke.
I have.
So you're either drunk or you're not paying attention. So yeah.
If I can.
No. Let me just. I'll be really brief. If you look at the countries where they have in the constitution this kind of right to have a job, in most of them, the following line will be that everybody has a duty to do something according to his choices or abilities, which improves both spiritually or materially the society they live in. So it's a double-edged sword. And that's why it's seen. It's more like, a philosophical stance of the society you live in, which reflects in the Constitution rather than, a proper right.
Yeah.
So this is where the misunderstanding is.
Yeah.
So G-Man has got no right to have that job. In the same way that I have a right to my physical integrity, but if I shoot myself in the foot, it's my fucking problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the difference between the substantive and formal rights,
Right.
which is that you could argue that, like in the American sense, they have the right to life, liberty, and happiness. That from that would entail that you have the right to a livelihood. And it makes perfect sense to say that.
It's like,
but that doesn't mean that anyone else has to hire you.
Yeah. It's like, it says, I have the right to freedom. Yeah, okay. And it's, it's different that saying nobody can buy me. It's a different thing,
Yeah.
You're effectively talking about a philosophy, an ideology, as opposed to
no, it's
a philosophy that has been.
No.
Let me finish first. as opposed to a philosophy that has been enshrined in law under a constitution.
No, this is entirely enshrined in law.
Yeah, that is by law. That is in the Constitution. It's an ethical stance that some kind of society decides to have towards some attitude. No law, not all Western societies have the right to have a job in their constitution.
I think you misunderstood what I was saying. What I was saying is, under the everyone has a right to a job kind of thing, also should have a right to a job, is a philosophical idea, as opposed to the separation, the dividing line between, you know, even though that might be a philosophy that drives the Constitution itself is the law now. It is, you know, an establishment of...
It's the effective standard of which all other things are judged.
Yeah.
There is a school of thought that says that all the laws in a country are the reflection of the moral stance and ethics in the country at the time. It's the effort to put in writing what are the morals and the ethics stance of the society at the time. So
I will grab that book right now.
What?
I'll grab that book right now.
Now, I just want to point out that we're going into quite fairly deep philosophy, you know, now, and it really, effectively, we're bashing around the same thing. I think Gary has said that everyone should have a right to a job, and we agreed with him. So, you know, effectively, the number one as a part of his statement is wrong insofar as, you know, he's missed out a word, and so the communication was the problem, whereas the concept he was thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
So number one is dealt with. Are you okay with that, Gary?
Yes.
Okay. Number two, you aren't in full command of all the information. You're looking into it provisionally. You know, it's something you need to look at, and then you will be able to make a hard, fast rule. So number two is provisionally wrong, possibly right.
I will amend it on the Google post. If I need to, I'll remove it completely.
Okay. And then number three, wiped.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. We've done it. We've dealt with it. Are you okay now?
Yeah.
Cool. Should we finish?
Yep.
Yay. Thanks, everybody.
Does that mean you're gonna go off air so I can start mine at 7?
Yeah. Well, you can't stamp it at 7 because it's nearly midnight. That's just stupid.
Well, hey, I live in the US.
Yeah, but
that's your fault, not ours.
Yeah, that's
y'all know that time zones are just a conspiracy.
I need to remind you that
why do you need a
the
time
center
zone
of the world, all time is plus or minus hours. So we're
Evidence that time zones are a conspiracy is that at Antarctica, the time is always either noon or midnight.
Yeah.
I can't help but feel, seeing as Greenwich Mean Time starts at our end, or British whatever time they set it to now, and America is actually on the minus side of that. We can't help them being backwards.
Yeah.
I mean, we do still use the metric system.
This is why
you don't use the metric system. That's the whole fucking problem.
This is why all the cool stuff comes from Japan, because they're so far ahead of us.
Actually, Tony, if you want to go there, I live in GMT +1, so I'm ahead of you.
Yes, I know.
No, because we're currently GMT +1 because we're British summertime. Oh, but he's still out ahead of us.
Oh, y'all, I'm central, so we don't have to change shit.
Yeah, Fabio, I would never say that you are not more advanced than me.
Wow. I see what you did there.
Anyway,
well played.
I'm going to call this hangout to an end on that, you know, and thank you for watching, and thanks to the people taking part. Have a great day, and Midnight Sparkle's going to have something on shortly, so take care, everybody.
Is he currently naked?
I hope not.
No, that requires tokens.
Everything a bit more in my head.
Okay, then.
I'm so glad I didn't press the button just before D said, just after will he be naked.
I'm still surprised that nobody's found my actual sex tape. But
what?
I'll find it eventually.
It's on Pornhub, so you can find it.
We're still live. We're still live.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody.